Alright, see what's going on over here. We are working in the lab still. I've got the lab pinned. If anybody wants to find that, also drop it over on the YouTube side as well. For anybody that wants to do this lab, they can. Alright, so this one is talking about, we're just going through and updating the digging deeper section of the book with the different pieces of this. So I'm kind of continuing this from the other night. I don't normally stream Saturdays, but what the hell. This is actually the last day of the quarter for the college that I teach at, so I figure I'll hop on and hang out and, I don't know, see if anybody's got any questions or anything. Let's see. Welcome to Prolog Ansible. Verify your root host config. There we go. Create a directory for your servers for deployment named opt deployment. Push over your config file and change the value var1 to equals 111 in the config file. So we're going to edit some things and mess with it as we go. All right. So we've looked at this one before. But the way this lab goes, yep, we look at that. We look at the config file. We verify that that is indeed a good host file for Ansible, and it has a host group there defined, and the servers that are part of it as a grouped servers, right? So then we'll push over a creation of the opt deployment, what do we call it? Opt deployment directory. So we'll make that path, make it a state directory. Yep, give some warnings. Nobody really cares about those. Just for fun, we'll run it again and see what happens. I think we even say over here, after you run the first ad hoc command, run it again to see how it behaves differently. Well, the second time it runs, it doesn't need to change anything. So it doesn't change anything. It just tells you pretty much something like, yeah, bro, everything looks good. Like, it doesn't have to go changing things right now. So we've got that. We've got opt deployment on both servers. I can do a quick little check to see that it's there. I can do that same Ansible command again, but then we can change a few things. We can go for something like the module could be shell, and the argument could be ls-l, maybe ls-ld of opt deployment. And then from the two nodes, whoops, if you're going to do that, you have to close it out. If you do that, it should hit both of those nodes and say, yeah, it is opt deployment, and it is a 755 like we just saw as the output from Ansible. So it's created something that wasn't there at the start of the lab. So that's really good. All right, so let's see. Go push over the config file to both of those. So the config file will be in both locations. Good, good, that's what we expect. Control plane, and then node 01, there's our configuration file pushed over there. If we just happen to run that file again, run that configuration to push it again, it won't have to run a second time. So it's good. And then I say, can you change the configuration to have a bunch of ones instead of what it currently had? And the answer is yes, you could do that. You change it to a bunch of ones by running this different command. So okay, yeah, we could do all that. After you run the copy module, an ad hoc module has it behave differently when you run it again. Well, we know that it behaves differently because we just saw it behave differently. It doesn't have to change anything the second time, so it's going to just keep coming up green each time after it does the changes. So okay. Can you verify that the MD5 sum information is the same as what you saw up here? So up here, you got a checksum, which is a SHA-1 sum, by the way. So this will be a SHA-1 sum. And when we first pushed it, we also got an MD5 sum. Can we verify that those are the same? Hey, Moop, how's it going? So we'll go ahead and do an MD5 sum against root config file, and we'll do SHA-1 sum against root config, and we see 3965 and 5065A. We can go up and look. 5065A and 35965. That's when you look at the first 5 or 6 and then the last 5 or 6, it's pretty reasonable that there's not going to be a hash collision. So it's pretty reasonable that those are the same because of the, avalanche theory of hashing, which says that if you were to change even one thing, you would get a wildly different output. And I can prove that real quick, where if I were to look at VI, my root config file.config file, right? And I just go and just add just a space anywhere. There's one more new line character in there than there was before, and I can guarantee you that that has completely cascaded through those hashes to be two completely wildly different outputs from what they were before. And that's what we call avalanching inside of hashes. And that's a good concept to know if you're going to take like a Security Plus or one of these like intro type things and they're asking you little hashing informations. That's the avalanche theory of hashes. You change one little thing and everything's significantly different in the output of the hash. All right, so that's all there. We know that's all good. If we hit check, it says, looks at you learning Ansible, you solved the challenge. This was a super easy challenge. So we look at each of these. After you push the config file, what happens if you pushed it back to those again? It would change it back because it would be a new thing. And it says, what might you use to test for the same kernel version on all servers? All right, so how would I check that maybe we had the right same kernel version on all the servers? I might go steal one of these that just has a shell and do something like uname -r, and if that hits all the boxes, it should be able to tell me that they're the same kernel version, right? So that's pretty straightforward. Then there's let's say ad hoc. Introduction to ad hoc commands. This was something that we had already done in one of the previous ones. Let's see. Let's check mode, how much you use it, how do you send different forks, that's all fine. So down here, we'll say digging deeper, read this documentation on how to limit the, or on what patterns you can employ with your ad hoc commands. And then we'll say, what have I been doing here? Just been saying here, and then there's our patterns. How can you pattern hosts 3? How can you pattern multiple groups? How can you exclude groups or the intersection of groups? Where might you use these in the enterprise? So any of these digging deeper sections are me asking questions around, as you're doing this stuff with Ansible, what other things might you find? Like you can go and do very simple things, right? Like, I mean, super easy to just go and type stuff into a system, find a lab that'll show you things, read like a Medium article or one of these DigitalOcean articles that'll show you something, and that's cool, right? But like most of you guys know, you read something, you look at it and you go, huh, that's interesting, and then you forget it. But if you're doing it and then you're thinking about how you're going to apply it into, you know, whatever you're doing, maybe you're like me and I actually just have done a bunch more deployments of like RHEL 8 systems. We've been on RHEL 7.9 in one of my big clusters, and I'm the guy that's pushing out and building all the stateful images for our next round of deployments. In fact, I'm going to build stateful version and a stateless version of them so that they have both of them as options. But deploying these systems and getting them built out and everything is kind of one of my things. So like anytime I do anything with any tool, I think how would this have made this last thing that I did easier, and I was doing kickstart files. So if any of you are familiar with kickstart files, and I was complaining about them down in our Discord too. I was like, kickstart files, that is all. Because if you guys have ever used kickstart files, man, it is oh, it's not that it's a nightmare. It's that your process to find out if they're correct is a nightmare. And you might say, well, aren't there like kickstart tools that are like do like a lint on it for you and give you a sanity check that it's right? Yeah, there are. But at the end of the day, if a kickstart file is going to build a server or not is wholly dependent on when you run that, if it builds the effing server or not. You can go test a million things that you want, but at the end of the day, does that thing build a damn server? All right. Also, well, I won't tell you guys that. But anyways, let's go to our next one. So now we're all done with the other day as we started doing this and building this out. We the other day we just started kind of going through these. So the first 4 labs of our Ansible stuff here. If you go to our lab section. Also, this is probably the least talking anybody's done in the first, I don't know, 12 minutes of my stream, so it's kind of weird for me. There's all the labs, but we did the first 4 of the Ansible ones the other day, or the first 3. We just did the 4th one, and these involve installing Ansible, setting up the original inventory file, and then getting some ad hoc commands out of the way. Now, everything else that we do with Ansible in all of these labs directly relates to building playbooks, because playbooks are really where the power and like the cult of Ansible comes from. When you hear people talk about how powerful it is, they're always talking about the playbooks. The idea of like running ad hoc stuff is like I can run like little cantrips and do like little magical spells that are like cool in the network, and I can check things quickly for management, or I can do reports real quick on things. But that's like all ad hoc stuff. Playbooks are really like where the cult of Ansible thrives. Like we can really do stuff. What are you saying? Talking about the skills to get the engineering job. Which jobs are you talking about? D-Nice, we sometimes go, like I'll go out on, I'll pull up like systems engineering jobs, and I'll just show you guys questions. Like this is one of my students actually found a systems administration job out there. This is part of like a post that I got from students where in week 7, because we're right in the college, they'll go out and find work. And these were things that were like required for a basic like a network IT type thing. So I will sometimes look these up, and then these are the different things that we'll talk about in here. The other day we were doing one. This was directly. We went out to a bunch of different job postings, and we started grabbing things that people want a systems administrator or systems engineer to know in the Linux world. So yeah, I want you guys to know how to do engineering things. But also, if you say, well, what other things? You know, just Linux engineering? Well, no, there's all kinds of... Let me see if I have beginners here. Is beginners a thing? There's also all these other things that are out there. So if you say, hey, Scott, you know, I don't want to be a Linux engineer, but I want to be like an entry. I want to understand engineering better. There's Six Sigma, which is a total quality. So total quality management and Six Sigma are 2 theories of how we improve things, improve processes. If we can measure it, then we can improve it. That was a Edward Demingism. So these guys have a bunch of training out there around Six Sigma, which is generic engineering. This would help you in any world of engineering and stuff. So I have a bunch of other things, and then other stuff that I'll come up with as we talk. Like I'll pull up trainings and stuff like that on. Let me give you an example here. I have one that I show you guys sometimes. That's around. Just go here. This is one that'll be a good example, I think, of like this is any type of systems engineering right here. General troubleshooting. Do you guys understand? As we, God damn it, that is super fucking annoying. God, PowerPoint can be really effing annoying sometimes. Anyways, here we go. This is one of my talks on how we do troubleshooting, right? Like, if you don't have any good troubleshooting methodologies, these are the ways that I would tell you to go about learning how to troubleshoot, right? And I have a whole bunch of engineering stuff that we do, and failure modes and effects analysis, and all these different things that we can do to try to minimize problems within a system, right? So hopefully that answers the question. As I was doing these the other day, I was writing down like the big four. Like somebody wanted to know about monitoring, performance, and troubleshooting issues related to server hardware, operating systems, and software. And I was showing that the big major four things that we normally look at are CPU, memory, disk, and network. So then we were breaking down each of those different pieces. So hopefully that answers that. All right, so let's pull up. We're going to go to Lab 5. If anybody wants to do Lab 5 with me, you can. I'm going to unpin this old lab. It's like I'm always doing the same thing here. But pin the new lab here. Pin the new lab. Hold on 1 second. Also, some people are over on YouTube. I haven't had any conversations over there, but if anybody's on YouTube, there is the lab that we're doing. And then it's pinned on this side. Okay, good. What's the question? Makes sense. I've held the title systems engineer, but really had nothing to do with type of engineering. It's more about controls. Yeah, there's, I mean, like I typically, currently I have the title of like HPC systems administrator or HPC systems engineer. And I just, it's like, a lot of this is nebulous. A lot of people think of what we do as the platform engineering. So I am everything from the hardware engineer in the data center, if they need me to be that, but I try to stay away from that if I can, to like the OS engineer. I deploy the same operating systems to multiple systems. I set up their networking in an automated way. I get all their package levels to the same level, and then I make them prepared to integrate with like LDAP or whatever our authentication. So there's all these different pieces of that, but that's what I do. I keep the platform stable, so then in a lot of cases, like the middleware team or the application teams can come on top and lay down what those servers are going to do. But my job is almost always like I'm the guy crawling around in the boiler room, keeping all the different stuff going, if that kind of makes sense. So, hey, thanks for Soft W Curioso. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. I will, yeah, so we're going to go keep doing the labs, but yeah, hopefully that answers the question. And yeah, I'm right at the end of, in fact, today is the last day my students can turn stuff in. I let them turn stuff in tomorrow, though, because I don't grade until Monday. I think grades close on Wednesday. Actually, I've been grading some stuff today, though, because students were messaging me earlier. But my college stuff's done. I have a week off, and then I start my next college class, and then I go to Mexico for a week. So I'll be down in Mexico here in a couple of weeks doing, I'm actually doing a wrestling camp down there with some of my buddies. So. Welcome to Prolog Ansible. So this is Lab 5. Verify your host file. And then, cat root host, not Etsy host. All right, there we go. That's the same file that we've made in other parts of the lab. I said create a deploy playbook called root-deploy.yaml to push the file root-deploy.tar.gz over to all the servers in the op directory. So we're going to push this over there. And I give a tip here. The tip says if you get stuck, you can copy the answers and just use the one that I've written, which is actually something that I just do in the lab when I'm showing it to you guys, right? And we'll come down here, solutions, and so we cat out root host, we see that. We do a SHA-1 sum on root-deploy.tar.gz, so we get this C6CD21B75, right? We know the exact weight of that file. That file should never change. That should always be that weight, unless I were to change the lab in some way, right? So now I want to push this over. So maybe I vi root deploy. Oops. YAML. Right. And I've already copied in, so I have all this stuff. It says start of deployer playbook. Servers are going to go, it's going to go hit all the servers in that host group, which is both of them. It's going to gather facts true, so we'll have information to timestamp if we need to. And then we do have some timestamp information we're going to use right here, which is the ISO 8601 basic short. Some of you guys have seen me talk about that before. And then I'm going to push this over, and I'm going to checksum it so that I only push over that file if it meets that checksum. So some of you might say, well, why would you do that? Wouldn't I always just want to use whatever file's there? And let me copy this and then send this over. Let's run it real quick. See it push the files over. You might see that Ansible Playbooks when they're in playbook mode, they give us a lot more information, and that's really awesome. Gives us how well the playbook ran and gives us some output at the end, and that's good. But then I can verify that everything's there, so the deployer's there. Okay, good. Now, to answer your question about why you might want to check some of you have worked in environments where we have more people. Yeah, it's a check file integrity. It's to make sure that even for the best intentions, somebody has not repackaged up this file. Because what you're going to see here in a second is when I'm done with this, we're gonna push this over, and then we're gonna unpackage it and deploy whatever software is in there. We're just gonna have a simple little script that sits there and runs and then gives us some output back. But what you're gonna see with that is, well, what if somebody on your team, even with the best intentions, updates your package right there, your op deploy tar.gz? And I've had this happen before. And you might say, well, we could just check it all into GitHub. You can, but not all organizations, especially not on platform engineering. Not everybody's that kind of like software DevOps-y type thinking. Not everybody's doing that. So I've got this package there, and somebody updates it for a security reason, right? Security says it, so how can I argue with that? But they really should have versioned this file and not used my original. Maybe I should have versioned this, but the point is, somebody's changed something, and I need to know, because everything that I do inside of that script or inside of that deployer may be tied to versions of things that I have in this old system. And then as our system moves forward and somebody just comes along and goes, oh, I'll just use that deployer that Scott always uses and I'll update it. Then when I go to deploy things to the current baseline, not a test environment, not some, whatever security asks somebody to do and test, somebody's changed my original version. I need to know that, because, and you guys probably, if you've stuck around or heard me before, you probably think that I'm insane, because you're like, God damn it, Scott's always trying to control everything with an iron fist. It's not that I want to control things. It's that I can't do what's called warrantying something. I can't guarantee you it's going to work if somebody else has changed something. So it always looks like, when I talk about like how we pull down packages and then we lock in a baseline, and when I say that we verify everything's exactly the same and then test it with hashes, a lot of you are probably like, God damn, this guy's always... I want to verify that my work is always going to be good. If my name's stamped on it, and more than that, I don't really care that my name is good. That's important. But what I care about is I'm not getting called in the middle of the night because something doesn't deploy. So, yeah. So, yeah, Horizon, I hope this stuff's good. And if you run out of my labs, there's Fisherman's labs, which are pretty good too, and all that stuff. So this stuff is just to get you guys into doing this. And if nothing else, some of you guys look at this stuff and go, that looks really easy. And I go, well, yeah, you probably could do this. So, like, most of you guys that maybe do this as a hobby, and one day you go, hey, maybe I want to go make some money doing this, you guys can do that. What's the difference between my book and the Killer Code Lab? So the labs are the basic, they're like everything that I wrote up as we built it. And then the book is designed to be more of like a journal of you thinking deeper about it. So like in the labs, I make you do everything. Then we get to like a check here, watch. And it'll say you're done, right? You did lab 5, right? And you did all the tasks. So it's almost like this is like a hands-on execution of everything. But then over here, in the book, it's like, well, we've been running ad hoc in all the previous labs. Why don't you see the host group on the command line for the playbook execution? So for one thing to think about if you're here, when we first did this playbook right here, all I just said was Ansible-playbook-I root hosts, and then that's inventory file, and then root deploy. But I didn't have to put, in ad hoc mode, I had always done the host group on the command line, right? So I said, why don't you have to have that? So some of you might look at that and go, wait, why don't we have that? Well, when I looked at this, it's because I can define my host inventory in here. So there's that. Yeah, I would say it's I want to say it's like it's making you reflect, because what I talk about is when I go do labs, right? This is my thought. Like I'll go to like classes and stuff. They'll send me like week-long trainings on high performance compute stuff or Tivoli Storage Manager or something, and there'll be labs, and I'll just put my head down and I'll blast through these labs. There'll be like 80 commands, and I'll just be like as fast as I can, and I'll get done, and everything will be built. And then I'll look back like for the last hour and go, oh, I did it fast and I got to lunch early or whatever, but I didn't learn a damn thing. So then I go back and I start going, oh, okay, that's why we selected this. And that's why, and I find that when I reflect on things, and also I learned this from college, note-taking and thinking through things after you do them with your hands, like it kind of just reinforces the learning of it. So that's that's what I would say. Yeah, you could think of it as more theory. I've got a course that I'm writing, and this is going to be free, like most everything that's free. The only thing that costs anything is the book. But I have a 120-hour course that I've been writing, and it's going to be 50 theory hours, so it's like reading stuff and learning stuff, and then it's going to be like 70 lab hours. And some of these labs are going to flip over and go over some of the same like killer coda type stuff, and actually I'm going to be writing some new ones. I'm trying to put out like 1 to 2 labs. Well, right now I'm getting out about 1 to 2 a month, but I'm trying to get 1 or 2 a week out right now. So yeah, so I'm putting this together. This is my syllabus for that, and then I'll have that going. But yeah, I would say that this is more of like a journal. So what happens if the checksum value isn't the same between the playbook and the file you're trying to push? Well, I could sit here and I could guess, or I could go like this. I can do this thing that I always talk about with you guys. 1 test is worth 1,000 expert opinions, right? What if I just change that C to a 4, and then I try to run this again, right? We could sit around and theorize all the time, or we just press the button and see what happens. And it says, I didn't have to deploy it. It's already over there. But let's remove it from both of those. And turn the verify that's there, and then we're gonna deploy, and then I'm gonna use that same thing to delete it, right? To delete it on both servers. And then now let's try our deployer on a clean system, but our checksum doesn't fit. It gives us a bunch of red, and it says copied file does not meet the expected checksum, transfer failed. That's good to know. Now I know what happens if the checksum value isn't the same between the playbook and the file you're trying to push. Well, it's going to be red everywhere. Hey, Robodom, how's it going? We're still updating lab books and stuff, Robodom. If you guys haven't seen the book before, I can publish new versions, but I can also preview. So I'll show you guys real quick. I'll make a new preview. I haven't pushed a preview in a while. The previews only come to me, and when I publish it, it goes out to everybody that's bought a book, which is like, I don't know, like 20 people or something. Like the book isn't like super. It's not like flying off the shelves or nothing. But it is kind of cool how these generate, and then I can download the new one, and I'll show it to you guys right here. But yeah, I'll let that publish real quick. So it says that we do that. Why might we want the checksum file before we stage it? We talked about this. I want to make sure file integrity, nobody's changed anything. Even with good intentions, I need it to be the same. Would have flashed shelves if I autographed it? Maybe. Rodom, we'll have... so guys, we were talking about there's this expo, Scale Expo in California every year. I think they just had like their 23rd or 24th one. Robodom's been going to them the last few. And we were talking about me going out there to talk at the next one, and we'll make shirts up for everybody that shows up. It was the 21st one. Nice. Yeah, that's a lot, and it's annually, so that's 21 years of them running it. That's really cool. So we will, if I go out there, it'll be funny. We'll get shirts, and then we were gonna do shirts with a QR code. So if anybody scans our QR code, it'll just drop them into our invite for the Discord. So yeah, get all the California pro luggers out there. Yeah, and Robodom, I'm only about 6 hours away, so that's not super far for me in Phoenix. It's not too far for me to head out there, so that shouldn't be that's not unreasonable. So, all right. What were the arguments you gave to the copy module? What checksum is used by default in Ansible, and how do you prove this? Well, the default checksum, if I go, let's just say that I look at this. So I do a SHA-1 sum on root, what's the name of that file? Deploy.tar.gz. And I see that it's C6, whatever. And then I go and I look in my playbook, and we'll just change this back to a C real quick. And then we'll and I'll just put this over there. I'll hit Control-Shift-V, and yeah, it looks like that's the same one to me. So that means that it's definitely SHA-1. SHA-1 is good enough, even though it's a deprecated, people aren't really using that anymore from a security standpoint for hashing and file integrity and stuff, but it's still valid for just transporting something and making sure that it's fine. There are other checksums, by the way. You can just do a checksum, and that's pretty good. That's a simple little checksum that just gives you like the weight of the file, and that's pretty accurate still. You don't have to do, a SHA-256 sum against, right? Important things to know about hashes, and this is important for you guys that are going to get your Security Plus. If anybody asks you, is a hash an encryption of a file? The answer is no. It is simply a output representation of the state of the file as it is. There's no information transferred in the transfer of a hash. And no matter how large the input of the file is, a hash is always a fixed length output. So that's very important. So this will always be, if it's this, if it's a file, it's that. If it's just the letter I, right? And I pass that to a SHA-256 sum. We're going to pass just the letter I to a 256 sum. It's still going to be the same fixed length. If we take an ISO, like an ISO of a disk, I come over here, hostbox, right? Hostbox is a box in my network that does all of my ISOs. Some of you guys have been around and seen this, right? All the ISOs in my home lab are right here. And I can do a SHA-256 of, let's just say this old Kali Linux that I have, right? SHA-256 sum. Before I do that, I'll do an ls-ld or ls-l of that as well. And watch this. So the first one, it'll come out and, oh, you know what? We'll do a ls-lh of it real quick so we have it in human readable. That is a 4.6 gig file. And then the SHA-256 sum of it will still be the same size as the command that I just did, because the output of a hash is always a fixed length for whatever the size of the hash is. Right? All right. I know I'm not supposed to crush water bottles, but here we are. By the way, I could have timed that. I think it takes like 40 seconds or so on that box. Yeah, there's our hash of that. And it's the same length as any of those other hashes we just looked at, right? So, yeah, so why is it important to know the Ansible default behaviors around checksums? Well, because I need to know what checksum I would check to put it in there for my system. So I need to know that. And I said, what are the main differences you've seen between ad hoc modes of the earlier labs and the playbooks modes that you're running now? Why do you think you'd use one or the other in the industry? Well, with ad hoc mode, I would probably do that for just like quick and dirty stuff and checks. And then my playbook modes are when I want to make a bunch of repeatable steps and use a declarative language in YAML to set the servers all the same way over and over again at the same time. And we're going to do that as we get further in these labs. We're going to do the same thing over and over again and build out. We build out like NFS environments and web server environments, and then we build firewall environments, and we do all these things. We some MySQL environments, and we deploy everything that we need to using a tool, and then it's always going to be exactly the same no matter how many of these we use. So let's go over here. Let's look up Ansible checksum, and let's see if there's anything useful here. See, let's do some checksum stuff. URL, remote, we don't need any of that. I want to use the Ansible documentation throughout all of this, but let's do this real quick. So for this lab, we did simply the bang VI, right? Because VI is our deployer. So one of the things I'm going to ask in the digging deeper section is to go read this documentation. Isn't there a command where you can compare the SHA sum to a pre-existing value, see if it matches? There might be too big. I don't know one right off. I've always just eyeballed them, but I guess you could do it, and then I've seen like a little solution that people use where they'll just echo it. So they'll take one value and throw it in a file, and then they'll echo the new value to the end of that file and append it, right? Whatever the output is, append that file, and then they'll do a unique -c to see that there's just one, and that'll validate that they're the same. There's probably a tool. Too big. That's another thing about Linux. I try to tell guys, like, I mean, there are so many tools, like I couldn't possibly know them all, but I think that I think there's probably something like that, but I've never used it, so I couldn't tell you. Yeah, Robodom, I appreciate you sticking around. I appreciate anybody hanging out with me. Let's do this. We'll say for digging deeper for this one, we'll say read the documentation here. The documentation of the copy module here, right? And oops. What are, so we go and we look at this and we say, you know, what are some other arguments that you might have used in this lab? Why might you want them in the, why might you want them in, how have I been saying that? I've been saying in the enterprise, yeah. Why might you want to use them? So we go look at this and we can see over here, right? Yeah, I've always just eyeball. I look at like the first 5, but there's probably some tool that does it. Hold on, where was that? Yeah, so some of you guys might have noticed I pushed that over. I didn't define the owner, the group, or the mode, but I could have. Maybe as I pushed something over, I wanted to set it to read only on my boxes. Read only for only root can read it, right? Maybe I'm putting it in temp. Some people like to deploy things out of temp. If you guys ever do, and I don't mean to bash the company, but if you've ever used Oracle and you've ever deployed an Oracle database on a Linux server, I got to tell you guys, they always deploy their shit out of temp. They have to. They have to. There's no other option there. You have to deploy their stuff out of temp. So yeah, hey Johnny man, how's it going? Hopefully this stuff's all useful. I'm gonna say this in this one. If you look at the argument for mode, why do you think there are single quotes around the value? Why might this be important to know? So, this is very important, guys. Yeah, Johnny, I'm adding to the book. I'm adding, so the Ansible sections didn't have digging deeper, and I wanted to add to them as we kind of went through some of the different pieces. And I'm getting real close. Like the book has been 95%. Like I think I put it out and said it was 80%, and then I got it up to like 95%. And I really want to have like the book like done, and then the book will be, you know, air quotes done. And then, you know, if we want to, yeah, I guess I could keep adding to it or whatever as we go, because LeanPub's kind of cool. By the way, if anybody ever did buy the book in the past, all the new stuff, it always sends you an update, which is kind of cool. Like you never have to buy a book again on LeanPub. That's one of my favorite things. I found out about LeanPub, in fact, by a guy when I was studying for my Vault cert. There was this guy, Ned Bellavance, and he had some pretty cool YouTube stuff on how to do Vault. And I was like, Vault's pretty cool. And he had a book for like $20, and I was like, I'll buy his book. You know, I like his stuff, and his book was excellent. And his book, like, even to this day, I think his book's only like 80% done. But it was really, I mean, it was done. And that's kind of how I feel too. Like, I could call this done, but I just want to add a little more so there's like some more value for people. And I like a digging deeper section that makes you go, you know, we do the labs, we do the reflection, and then digging deeper is like all the theory stuff. And I think somebody put that pretty well earlier. Yeah, too big. I would think Oracle does know that. In fact, this is always one of the reasons I always complain about this is you would just deploy Oracle. However, if you follow your CIS benchmarks, one of your CIS benchmarks for pretty much any Linux file system there is or any Linux operating system there is, all of the CIS benchmarks have temp and var temp as no exec. So there's that. This that other book. Oh, the other book is by a guy named Ned Bellavance, and it's on LeanPub. It's called Vault. I can find it for you guys here. If somebody's looking for that, I thought this book was excellent. I bought his HashiCorp Vault Certification Associate guy. I bought this a few years back when I passed my Vault cert, and I thought it was excellent. He also looks like he has a Terraform one as well. But if you look at this book, it's always been like 95% complete, and he hasn't updated it in a couple of years. But it was an excellent book when it first came out. So if anybody needs that, definitely do that. And by the way, all of his stuff is also up on YouTube. So if you are looking for that, that's there. But anyways, let's see. So we did that. So read the documentation now. Okay, so we'll go to Lab 6 here next. We'll go do Lab 6. And I'm missing stuff probably. So we do a chmod those directories, install Oracle, and then chmod back. No, so what you have to do, too big. No, actually, so it's worse than that. You have to remount the share. I'll show you real quick in a system. These systems aren't deployed this way, so it won't be exactly the same, but maybe I got one of my home labs. Hold on. This one doesn't have it. But let's just say like this Ranger directory mount. I'll show you because what you're asking is perfect. Here's Ranger. It's locally so here's the local Ranger data store. But it's also mounted on my system as Ranger data because that's where it's mounted everywhere else. But just suffice it to say Ranger is its own data store on this local machine. And in here, there's not a no exec. So if I were to grep Ranger from Etsy FS tab, I have the defaults here. I would actually have to set the default here to have no exec in there. So I'd probably like grab all these. I would go down to this, like Rangers here, and then I would change the defaults. Actually, what I would do this right here. This is me in the systems world. I would grab this, and then I would make a backup of the original thing, right? I would clear this up, and then I would say no exec because that's a requirement, and then I would remount -o mount -o remount on Ranger, right? And when I did that, now it would show here as a no exec. So now nobody's doing that out of there. And then I would have to change that back after I was done. Well, actually, so this is the standard. This is the CIS benchmark standard to have no exec on temp. I would remove that, so I would do the opposite of what I just did. Put it, install my stupid Oracle, and it only needs to be there for the execution of its damn script. And you say, well, why don't you just move its script somewhere else and run it? Nope. It unpackages there and has to run out of temp. It's super annoying, man. Super annoying. But I'm gonna fix this real quick right here. So what no exec does is you can't have an executable file in that directory. Even if it's 755, it still can't execute out of there. So watch, I'll cd to Ranger, and then I'll just touch some example, right? Some example.sh, vi some example.sh, and I'll just make it echo hello everyone, right? So it's just going to echo something to the screen. I'm going to chmod some example to 755 in this directory, and I should not be able to execute it. It won't even let me tab finish it, by the way. Some example.sh. It's executable. It will not execute. Yeah, you could. Orange Hue, you could, but Oracle required, it's like it checks, why am I not in temp? And you're like, dude, mother effer. This is one of, guys, I used to fight all the time with, the Oracle team and the Oracle reps. I'm like, guys, our security baseline is we can't do that. So what we ended up doing was we started building servers, and when they had the name our designator for, it was, Oracle Linux was DOL in our system. We just called it, I think it was like Data Oracle Linux is what it stood for. When I built a server like that, I would change this. Yeah. Well, fight the Oracle. I'm okay with Oracle doing it. It's just, it's like anything. I tell you guys, it's like everything in the systems world. You just have to know why a thing is the way that it is. So all I got to do for this to clear it back up, I'm going to delete this old one, fix this back, and then I'm going to do my remount -O. Watch this. I can't remount it while I'm in it. It's kind of like you can't make a bed while you're in it. So I'll just go back to root real quick. Let's remount that directory. There. CD back into it, and watch. I can immediately, with nothing else changed, I can execute that. So, just to install Oracle deploy, not to run. Yeah. You don't need it to run Oracle. You can change it back. It's just their deployer that always wanted to run out of temp. And you say, can't you go in there and edit it? I don't know. It's one of those things where, like, if you modify their file, it won't execute. You know, they've got stuff that they check in there and that kind of stuff. So I would change that. And then I would just let the security team know, hey, until we get this deployed, you're going to see that part of our baseline fail. And then when it was done, we would change it over and it was fine. We didn't deploy that much Oracle Linux that it mattered. Well, not even Oracle Linux, but Oracle on Linux that it mattered, but it was a thing that came up. Should I make my download folder no exact? Yeah, if you have a place that you allow stuff to be deployed, like SFTP folders and NFS shares and stuff, where I would do that, yes. But this is one of those things where we talk about like security postures of an organization. Different organizations have different security postures and levels of risk that they'll accept. And a lot of times, this is true of a lot of Linux positions, nobody else knows how that shit works except for you, whoever you are in the organization running their stuff. So a lot of times you have to be like the security voice of reason, as we like to say. I'm going to be the voice of reason here. Scott Champagne, the unlikely voice of reason here. It's not champagne, it's champagne. Anyways, whatever. Yeah, let him misspell my name. I don't care. But yeah, hi, how's it going, Crotch? We are fixing, not even fixing, we're doing labs and building out this book that I have. Adding a little bit more information to it. Yeah. Some companies have just dramatically bad, what's it called, support teams and stuff. Let me pin this new lab. The old lab's gone already. We'll pin Lab 6. And some of you guys that have been around have seen these labs before, right? But I think they're valuable if you've never done this stuff before. The stuff on the right here is, how to get to the lab, and then so now we're going to add to the modules that we did in Lab 5. So Lab 6 does kind of expect you to have done the previous labs. All of my labs build kind of on knowledge as we go, but let's go through this. So create a playbook to deploy an application. So we cat root hosts, and we see there's our host file. There's our inventory file with our host group. Control plane node 01, good. And I said create a deploy playbook called root deploy.yaml to push the file root.tar.gz over to the op directory on all servers, unpackage it, and run the installer.sh. So there's an installer coming up. Also, it says that we're on ad break, so we'll wait a second for ad break. Let's go check on Ranger. How's Ranger doing? We always check on Ranger during ad breaks. His camera is slightly busted, so I'll have to go reset his camera down there. So we'll give you guys a few minutes for come back from ads here, and then we'll go on. Give it a second here. Also, I'm streaming. I don't even normally stream on Saturdays, but I'm on a little bit early. Even if I had streamed, I'd normally be on a little later. But the wife is at, where is the wife at today? She is at, where'd she go? She went to help one of her friends with something. She'll be back in a couple hours. So I was like, oh, I'll hop on and we'll do a little bit of this stuff. So we'll get on here. All right. You guys are back? Oh, no, 12 more seconds and then you'll be back from ads. So we'll go as soon as we're ready here. By the way, if you're doing the lab, if you're working on the lab, you'll be able to see this a little better. Yeah, Robodom, she is doing scrapbooking soon, but that's next weekend. Chocolate croissant, nice. It is Saturday 4 o'clock here for us. And this is the last day of the quarter for me at the college, so my students can turn in stuff until today. I let them turn stuff in tomorrow as well. And then I think my grade book has to close by like Tuesday or Wednesday or something. And then I roll right over into the next set of classes coming up the week after. So that's kind of good. I'm also, for some of you guys, some of you know, I'm in college myself. I'm working on my doctorate right now. Third class is almost done. I'm about five weeks in right now. And my 7th week, I'll be in Mexico for the 7th week. So I have a paper to write tonight, and then I have to do a paper on the 7th week too when I'm in Mexico. So you switch to support? No. I am completely separate from all my college stuff. None of this stuff here is related to my college in any way. No, this is my own book on LeanPub. All of my PowerPoints and stuff here are different. They're significantly different than like my college stuff. I have all my college stuff on this system, but I never bring it up. So nice. Yeah, leaving college. Yeah, I tell you guys all the time, like, I don't think you need college to get into this. I don't think you need certs to get into any of this stuff. However, it is good to do. Would I like to learn any other spoken language? I probably, I've spent most of my life learning Spanish because I live in Glendale, which is a suburb of Phoenix, and there's a significant amount of Spanish spoken here anyway. So I kind of grew up, took all the classes in high school. I was in all the honors classes and stuff like that. So I do want to eventually learn Spanish a little better, and then I have been working on Japanese as well, so that's kind of good. Yeah. Oh, you're all done with your bachelor's thesis? Nice. And different colleges do different things, but how was your bachelor's? Mine was a big project. I moved a whole school district back in 2006 over to a IPv6 networking scheme. So that Robodom, I don't speak Japanese very well, no, but I definitely watch enough animation, like anime, to know some Japanese. So then there's that. Finite, automate, and regular expression. Nice. That sounds very computer sciencey. I am more of, I came up the networking side, and then I did a lot more of the business and engineering type stuff. So nice. Okay, let's get back into this. I'll keep answering what I can, where I can. Robodom, hopefully your laundry's going well. Yeah, most of us learn anything because of our anime. Yeah, sure. Sibrez, hopefully this stuff's useful to you. Hey, so there's a lab. The lab is pinned. Let me make sure I have it as not running out. Good. Verify all this stuff. If you get stuck, you could just copy in the answers. And here's the solution. So we look at the root hosts. There we go. And let's start our playbook. So we'll vi answers root deploy.yaml. And by the way, you guys, you can do YML or YAML. Both of them are appropriate file extensions for YAML. Some of you probably know Linux doesn't care. Linux doesn't actually care what file extensions you have on anything. You don't even need file extensions in Linux. In fact, the only thing that actually cares in this system is a variable called lscolors, which tries to color code things for you. But I tell you guys all the time, that's not always there on older Unix or different types of operating systems in the Unix and AIX world. You don't always have some of the niceties of modern Linux. So I think it's good to understand how to look into a file and see what's going on with it, right? Anyway, so we'll look at this, and here's the start of our deployer playbook, and here's that nice little line for servers. So we know that servers is the name of our host group inside of our inventory, so boom, there we go. Going to gather facts, we're going to do some stuff. We're going to deploy. This is the first part of that deployer that we did before. So we're going to deploy tar.gz over there, push it over there. Then we're going to create a directory for us to untar everything into. I'm going to make that a little bigger so you guys can see a little better. By the way, I don't have a period on the end of that. I could. This is arbitrary. Everything in these lines where it says name are just for you, for your documentation as you run it. Some people like to call stuff like this self-documenting. It's not exactly true. You do have to write what it's doing yourself, but this is what we hope this task does. Create a directory for us to untar into. We use the file module with the arguments path and state, and it makes a path and it makes it as a directory. It doesn't make it as a file. If you didn't have state directory, you just had state present, this would make a file called opt my app, and then this wouldn't work right. Then we come over here and we untar everything with the unarchive module, and it'll take a source and a destination. By the way, this unarchive module could have done these first two tasks for us. But I didn't do that in the lab because the goal of this is to get you guys looking at a playbook, right? Then, after we've untarred this, and we know the path because we've had to build some of this and test it, we're going to make the installer script executable. So that script that's tarred up, untarring. Did you know that there's a honeypot that does there's a honeypot that's called the La Brea tar pits, and some people call it tar pitting when you allow connections and slow down automated scanning of systems. So there was a project, I think it got abandoned like 15 years ago, called the tar pit, the Brea tar pits, which is similar to the La Brea tar pits that killed off animals and stuff like that. Anyway, so we got to make it executable, and you'll notice that I have the single quotes around the 0755. By the way, I asked that question in the last part. Do you know why the single quotes are there? Well, that's because if you put those single quotes there, the argument will look at this and it can use it as it'll use it as a string and it'll pass it in. But if you leave it as just 0755, it will try to treat it like a number and convert it, and it'll mess up the numbering. This 0755 will not properly go in, and you will not have that properly assigned to this. And if you want to mess with that, go ahead and remove those and see, and it'll be just some messed up ass permissions that are not good, not what you want. Then we come down here and we run the installer, and then I do a little thing that this is kind of a kind of an advanced thing, but this sets the stage for everything else that we do in Ansible going forward. It's the registering of a variable. The module is going to do a thing. The module in this case is just going to go launch a shell script. This is not something that a lot of people like to do in their playbooks, but as long as you understand why you're doing it, it's okay to do a shell command. Some people will be like, never shell, it's not idempotent. If you understand why you're doing things, you're allowed to do them later. I missed the start. Are you creating an Ansible parameter file script? Yeah, Hugh, this is it's pinned as a lab, but yeah, we're building a playbook file to push a file over, untar it, and then install whatever the install script is going to do on a system. Yep, so that's what we're doing, Orange Hugh. Yep. And this is the 6th lab, so the first 5 labs kind of walk you through installing Ansible, doing some pieces, doing the individual ad hoc modules, and then we started building a playbook. The first playbook we did in the last lab was just this part right here. Now we're building on it more. We're adding more and more to it, because I want you guys to see that there's like these increased amount of like playbook information and things that we can do. So now we got down here and we're going to run the deployer and we're going to register the output as a variable. Once we have that variable, which is going to be called installer_output, it's going to be held by Ansible in a JSON format. And then we can query that JSON format in any way we want by calling the variable. So then we're going to debug the variable. Debug just means pop out to the screen and let me see what's happening. That's all it's going to do. Working use Ansible, so I'm kind of, yeah, Orange Hue, my labs, which are here, right? My labs, the professional Linux users group labs, they're free. They're free on Killer Coda. You can go play with them whenever you want. My goal is to get you understanding how to use Ansible, and I really do think if you just start playing with them and going through them, they will walk you through the process of doing all this, and then you can look at this and go, I can do, like I was saying earlier, you'll look at this and go, why did Scott do it like this? I could have done these first 3 in just this one right here. I could make this more efficient. And then once you start, like I find this in engineering, it, like if you go and find somebody's like work and you're looking at it, maybe you can execute it, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But once you start like seeing how it works and changing things, I really think you kind of like own it. If that kind of makes sense. Like you'll never have to go look at their stuff again. You'll have the skills to do it, and that's kind of my thoughts on all this. So there's that. Okay, good. Looks like somebody bought the book too, so that's cool. It tells me on LeanPub every time somebody buys the book, so that's cool. But remember, if anybody ever does buy the book, it's always going to be updated. Whenever I update it, it is you get all the free stuff forever. By the way, I'm on the 7th book of the Deathgate cycle now, so it's a pretty good story by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. All right, anyway, so we looked at all the pieces. As with anything, whoops, putting my commands over there instead of over here. We hit escape, :Q. We don't have to change anything there. It shows you how to build the playbook over here if you wanted to just look at the individual pieces, right? All the individual pieces. And I ask over here, what modules have been added since Lab 5? Well, all of those ones underneath. We did a copy module. We did a unarchive module. We did a shell command. We did all kinds of extra things in that little snippet of stuff there. We did a debug. We haven't seen a debug yet here. Orange hue, Ansible, it's a declarative language, so you're telling it the state you want the system to be in, and then it's going and it's putting it there. This is all Linux, so you can do things. So you can use Ansible to do things in the Windows world, but I'm going to tell you my experience on that is it's cut off at this. This is how I used to do it. There are Ansible, and I used to do this professionally. When I was the platform engineering lead for AAA, I ran the Linux side, which had about 2,000 to 2,500 Linux servers at any time, and the Windows side, which had 3,500 servers. But Ansible, WinRM, and WinRM is Windows Remote Management, but Ansible has the ability to connect into that, right? So what I did, and this is the extent of how I used Ansible with Windows, just so everybody knows. What I did was I would connect in and I would push over a PowerShell script. Yes, I can do PowerShell. I can do it as well as, I guess, anybody who plays around with it. But I would deploy things via PowerShell. So I didn't do any configuration with Ansible. I would just go launch shell scripts off, PowerShell scripts specifically, out over into that side of things. But yes, you can use WinRM. Important things to know: you can use WinRM in secure mode or in non-secure mode. They'll have that, and it's 5985 for the port and 5986. Is that right? Let me see. Kerbos. Yeah. So WinRM is 5985 for the unsecure, and if you're using certificate based, it's 5986, and they'll show you that down here in a little bit. Good guess, or just sometimes my memory remembers weird stuff. Anyways, they talk about how to do that. It's pretty straightforward. Yeah, so there are things that you want to avoid, and a lot of that stuff is in doing your inventory right. I'm constantly like, I think that for any automation tool, if you understand your inventory, that's like the first half of anything. What servers am I going to hit when I run this, and can I sanity check those? And I do that in Lab 2, where we see how to hit different pieces. And then the other part of it is getting your deploy right, where it can do things. Also, I could have checks in here. I don't, none of these labs to start have like exhaustive checks, but I could have checks that say, hey, if this has ever been run, if this playbook's ever been run before, don't run. And we could do that a whole bunch of different ways. We can look for like markers, like identifiers that I've run this before. We could do that. We could stamp files on a server so that things don't change. By the way, guys, I apologize. I'm missing people's follows because, hell, I don't know why. Hold on a second. Something's busted here, guys. Something on my alerts is busted. I'm not seeing any follows. Where is, okay, hold on, guys. Why? Are you guys seeing follows? I'm seeing that follows are showing up here, but I have not seen a follow. Where is, hold on. Twitch alert goes right there, and it is set up here, and it's this widget bullshit here. There's Ranger. I think I can copy that. I put that right here. I close it. I think I can test it somewhere. Where's that at? Ranger's sitting there telling everybody that he's doing Linux. These all look like they're right. Let's see if we can test this. General settings. Visuals and sound. Celebration. We don't need to do any of that crap. Where the hell's the... I thought there was just a deploy. Ah, send test alert right here. Hold on. Yeah, my notifications shouldn't be broken. So here's the preview of the alert.
Conca is ready to do all the Linux.
Why is this not... Hold on. Browser source URL, boom. Go put that in my Twitch alert right there. Boom. Close. That's right there. And send a test alert again. Yeah, there's definitely something broken here. Twitch alert. Shut down source when not visible, sure. Fresh cache of current page, maybe. And then send test alert. That is weird, guys. Well, yeah, Horizon, thanks for coming. It's not hidden. It's working half the damn time. Browser source URL. Close. Yeah, watch it from Europe. Yeah, I imagine it's not. These are all on. There's nothing busted there. Yeah, I don't know. It's not it's not showing this.
Maxert is ready to do all the Linux.
Sending test alert should send it through. Yeah, it's super fucking weird. Guess I could just blow this thing away and redo it. Control audio, use custom frame rate. I don't care about any of that stuff. Shut down when not visible. Refresh cache of the current page. Refresh browser scene when it goes active, maybe? Send another test alert. Yeah, something broke on here recently because I have not changed any of this. Let's try this. I'm gonna make a new alert real quick. Hold on. This is just gonna be a new browser source. Add the source. Twitch. Oh, they changed that stupid effing thing. Wonderful. Wonderful. They just change it whenever they want to. So we'll call this Twitch alert and grab this one. Wait. This is my new one. Hold on a second, guys. Close that. Send it. Alright. Twitch alert gone. Twitch alert gone. Make a brand new one. Alright, browser source. Add source. Nope. Sorry guys, I gotta do this. Browser source. And add the source. New one. This will be Twitch alert. And there we go. Close. Down here. This is a brand new one, guys. This is brand new. There's nothing on this one that shouldn't work. Not going through. Lock it in place. Brand new. This is how you make your little browser sources here inside of Streamlabs. And then I've got the dash. I've got all the pieces. Don't need any of that. So it should just run. Oh well, I'll play with it later. I'll do. I need to connect my Streamlabs. Let me see. Maybe I gotta connect that. I don't know. That shouldn't be. That's never been a thing before, but let's see. Oh, authorize maybe. And then I'll try it again. Still not sending to you guys.
Maxer is ready to do all the Linux.
Still not going. Hey, how's it going, Ewo? I am trying to get this stupid Twitch alert thing working again. And for some reason, it is just not taking. Alright. Screw it. Alright, well, I guess I'm missing alerts, but I apologize, guys. There's not much I can do. Why do we have to make the installer script executable? Well, it's not going to install. It's not going to execute otherwise, so we have to make it executable. So that's the answer to that. And then I say, let's run it. Let's see what happens, right? Got to use OBS Studio instead of Streamlabs, just playing back. Yeah, I might do that, Ewo. I had paid Streamlabs a while back when they first announced that we could do Twitch and any other type of streaming. So I had made it. Actually, hold on a second. Is that just behind me? Let me try something again. No, screw it. I'll do it later. Doesn't matter. Twitch alert was not visible. Yeah, I might switch over to OBS one of these days. All right, so now when this ran, it did a bunch of stuff, and this is one of the most important parts about it. It registered that variable called installer output, and then we debugged that variable so we could see how it was coming out to the screen. We can see what happened during that deploy as far as anything that came to either standard out or standard error. Now, if it had logged to like a file or something, we obviously wouldn't get all that, but what we would get is, did we have a good return code from the execution of whatever that script or playbook or task or whatever that was? Do we have a good return code from it, right? And now I can do stuff with that. I can make logic based on that. I can report based on that. Hey, I hit 1,000 nodes and 15 of them didn't come back well. And I can have a little report of that, and then I can go send that to, if I'm doing patching on servers, I can take those 15 nodes from my report, send them over to some of my other engineers and be like, hey, go start breaking these up and fixing these nodes because these are the busted nodes. I'll keep doing whatever patching or whatever we're doing. So, yeah, I hate when integrations break for like no reason, and that's definitely a broken one that just started recently being busted. That's super annoying. Anyways, so let's verify everything real quick. We'll just go hit, and we'll see that there is a directory. What are we doing? We're doing ls-l on myopt, and we see that there is a deploy file in there. So if we hit check, it says that, look at you learning Ansible, you solved this challenge. These first few labs that I have, they only have one step to them. Other labs that we have just keep going, and there's more and more steps to them. But I said, what information is being showed in the debug output? So this is kind of important. Well, it's everything about that execution. It's the start and the end time. So this is something for you to think about. What information is being shown in debug? Why might you want to know some of this for your troubleshooting later? What is the .rc and what is the standard out? Well, .rc is the return code from the execution of the script. The command that we sent over had a return code of 0, so that's good. And standard out is the output of everything that came back out of that command until command came back to the well, in this case it's kicked off by a shell module from Python, right? So when it got control back, here's all the standard out that came. Now you could also have it as standard out lines, so you see standard error and standard error lines, standard out and standard out lines, depending on how you need to look at that, right? And registering a variable, in this case I just did it against the one module and I did just the shell module, but every one of those variables or every one of those tasks that we ran, we could have registered a different variable for it, and for the rest of the playbook, Ansible would keep those variables around for us to do logical decisions on. So installer output, RC0, as long as that's good, then we can continue on to the next part, which is maybe the configuration of the service and restarting it, whatever kind of thing we're doing. But in this case, by the way, this deployer is just a bullshit deployer I wrote. You can go look at what's in there if you wanted to. You could run this right here, and you could do like a cat. Whoops. Cat of that file if you wanted. It's the simplest little file ever. It says echo, I would be deploying some stuff, sleep for 5 seconds, I would be deploying some more stuff. It's not actually doing any of that stuff, but it's telling us what that would have been. So here's the output coming to the actual screen, right? So super simple, but I think for any of you that have done any systems work, you might look at this and go, yeah, that's exactly a use case I have. And then some of that other stuff that we did earlier where like maybe you deploy this over and you make the script installer executable, but then you go look at some of our earlier labs where we were doing that line and file thing. And when we were doing that line and file, lock that link, get that out of the way. When we do that line and file, we go and we change something in a configuration file before we actually run the installer. So in between here, there may be some opportunities, or after we unarchive, we can change some things depending on maybe the type of server that we're on. Maybe we're in a production environment or a dev environment, or maybe even test or QA, all kinds of environments we could have, right? And we can make decisions based on variables that are part of that server. Maybe that server knows variables about itself. Maybe things that we have in an environment file. So I used to support, I tell you guys, I used to support like 200 dev teams. So I was the platform engineering lead, but people would come to me and be like, Scott, we've done all this stuff in our lower environment, but we don't have permission to push it up to prod. We're going to deploy these new servers, and then we want you to push all of our code up there, through Ansible or whatever. Yeah, 200, yeah, Robodom, I had a lot of dev teams over at AAA. Probably about 200 if I had to guess. Now, some of them were, there were overlapping people that were on multiple teams, but, somebody would come and they'd say, hey, we need this new thing. We need to get rid of all the log4j. We need to get rid of all this. And we need to, and you might say, well, isn't a lot of that stuff in Jenkins? A lot of that stuff is in Jenkins, but when they would deploy new applications, sometimes there would be stuff that was part of the server applications. So like my stuff, like New Relic or Datadog or whatever type of things that needed to track that kind of stuff. And I would be responsible for it because I had been the guy who had built it out historically. One of the things you guys are going to find if you do a lot of automation, you will be the guy called on for automation all the time, guy or girl. You will be the one who gets called on to do this stuff. And there's two ways you can look at it. One, you can be like, oh shit, I got more work. Or two, you could be like, this stuff is easy and fun. I will do that and I will have job security. And, I think that that's a good thing to have job security, right? So anyways, there's that. So we do all this. And then we come down here and why should we not use the shell module in the enterprise? Well, you shouldn't use the shell module in the enterprise because Ansible loses control. From the time that you hit this button right here, from the time that Ansible got to this shell module and kicked this off, it was basically firing a cannon off into the night. The reason I say that is because can you unfire a cannon? If you have a cannon loaded up with like a 16-pound ball and you have, a charge of powder behind it and you go launch it off, it goes flying at an island, can you stop that once you've done it? No. That's exactly the reason most people try to avoid it. Because until it gets a return code back, and then in this case we register the output, Ansible lost control of what was happening on that server. In all of these other cases, the module never lost control of what was happening. Only on shell modules and command. So shell, command, and exec are three modules that are widely regarded to not be used if you want to do what's called idempotency. However, if this was just a shell command that was like checking something like an ls-l or something, there's other ways to do that. But if you wanted to just check things and then register the output, that's pretty safe. So now you understand why it's dangerous, you can do it. And I always tell you guys, it's like with kids. You tell a kid, hey, you can't cross the street. But then when you get like, 8, 9, 10 years old or whatever, and you realize, hey, I can go to a street and look both ways, not get myself clobbered when I run across, then it becomes safe. And it's the same idea here. Once you know why the shell modules are dangerous, and you realize, I don't want to break everything in the damn environment, then you can use them once you understand why. So what are some cases where we can use the shell module when we're checking things, when we just want to gather data? I use the shell module all the time to gather data, right? What do we give up by using it? We lose control. Ansible doesn't have control during that. All right, so digging deeper. In this part of the lab, let's go. Ranger Cam is busted. I'm gonna go reset Ranger Cam in a little bit here. We'll go do a Ranger check here. But so my question that I wanted to ask here is Ansible debug module. Debugging modules. So that's debugging modules. That's actually that's different. That might be a good one to put into a lab one of these days. How do you go and see what's going on inside of a debug? But we'll look at this debug modules a little bit. Do you want to do that? Actually, let's go with Ansible. I think we do the other stuff later. Here we go. So read the documentation around registering variables here. And then I want to know right here. Transfer, there's all kinds of information here. Registering variables, you got all this information. Let's see, hold on. Registering variables. So we'll go to conditionals as well. Here. Oops. And then do whatever I just did there. Yes. Don't want to break the whole book, right? Now. We'll use conditionals in future labs. But for now, what do you think some uses you might have for collecting information from output of commands, and how might you conditionally use that in future commands or in later commands in your playbooks, right? So the idea here is I say this jokingly often, and it's funny, I made my wife watch the movie. I made my wife watch a movie last night called Predator. That's from 1987. It's a great book, or a great thing. And then I showed her this yesterday, which is directly from Predator. Dutch, right? Everybody know who Dutch is? Dutch is Arnold's character in the original Predator movie. And hold on, there's this one thing I just want to show you guys here. I always use this, right? Arnold, if it can bleed data, we can monitor it. It's the same thing in my playbooks. If I can get the data out, I can do conditional tests against it. I don't have to be some deep computer science. Yeah, Billy, get to the chopper. Yeah, and then Billy's sitting there cutting himself and fighting it, and then it rips his spine. It's a pretty messy movie, right? But it's the same idea here that whatever I can get out, I can use. That's why I always show you guys, like with the setup module, you can see literally just literally hundreds of things, right? Let's go here. Let's just change this real quick and do just M setup. So the command is just the setup module, and it dumps so much information to the screen that I could do decisions on. I can run playbooks. I can run whole blocks of code, which are almost analogous to functions in other languages. I can run whole blocks of code only if, and we use a conditional called when Ansible system vendor is kubevert. Only if this is a virtual box that has this variable set in it, do we do anything in this block. And I don't have a lab on blocks yet, but I do use blocks in some of the labs. So I kind of need to, I don't want to say like my teaching style is, but my thoughts on a lot of this stuff is once you guys see it, you'll go and like modify it for your own use. And that's kind of how I introduce things as we go through these labs. But block is like a super useful thing, and then you add a conditional when to the block and it only does certain things, and it can become really, really powerful. Your playbooks can be run across vast swaths of servers. I like that it got that right. Swaths of servers in your environment without having to be like, one of the worst things ever is back in the day of shell scripts, we had to modify a shell script for every single run. But our playbooks could be built in such a way that they could run against all of our servers, right? For whatever baselines they had. So there's things to think about here as you do this. All right, we're getting this next one, which is going to be Jinja templates. But let's go get Ranger Cam work. I'm gonna go get Ranger Cam up and running real quick. So let's go to pull up my hourglass and do quick break here. We'll go 8 minutes. 8 minutes. I'll be right back, guys. Robodom's in charge. Robodom's always in charge. But Getting a pay raise. Yeah. Hold on. Let's refresh this. Oh, there's Ranger. He's down there eating a snack, and I got myself a snack too. My wife made these. What did she make? She made these peanut butter and jelly sandwiches earlier, but they're for a show that she was going to watch. Actually, that's where she is. She's watching a movie with her friends. I was trying to think, where the hell's my wife at? But she's with some of her friends, and they're making stuff for this little movie watch party they're doing with the kids over there. And she made a bunch of peanut butter jelly sandwiches and then cut them out as stars. So let me turn this on here. So I have these. They're all the crusts that were like from the star pattern that she cut out. So now I'm munching on those. Hold on, let's go look at Ranger again. He had a treat too. Don't let him fool you. All right. He had a good snack. This is pretty good for me too. I just want to eat on stream and be all snarfing it down. Also, apparently there's jelly all over the inside of the bag, so I gotta go wash my hands too. Well, hold on. They're the sandwiches. She cut the stars out of them and then put this in the bag so I could just eat it whenever. So I'll be polite, but we're gonna do some Jinja templating stuff. This has really been a big useful thing for me as using Ansible to report out. I think Jinja templates and understanding them will be really critical for people. Because Ansible by itself is very useful for configuring things and building things. But when you need to then report out how that was done and what happened and what the state of systems are, like Jinja templates are just the best. They're also really good for configuration stuff too, but they're very good. I use them mostly for reporting. So let me finish this last. I got 2 more sandwiches to do real quick, but they're again only about 15% of a sandwich each. All right, last one. Now I gotta go wash my hands. Oh, Dom, do you mind giving everybody the Discord? If you're still around. If not, I can do it in a second. Just my hands are all sticky. All right, let me go wash my hands real quick, and then we'll do more labs. I'm trying to be a little more productive on stream than I normally am. Be right back. All right. All right, let's get back serious here. It's almost a perfect 8 minutes there. Now, I need to drink some water. Let's do some Jinja templating. Get you guys in the lab and show you guys how I use Jinja. There are many ways to use it, but we'll start off with some of the basics. Unpin the old lab, pin the new one. All right. So over here, there's the link to the lab. It's also pinned for you guys. Make this a little bigger so you guys can see. And I say, for the start of this lab, verify your host file. Always make you guys do that. It's the same inventory file every time in these labs. In my home lab, I've shown you guys it's bigger. Right? And then I can break this up however I want to. CentOS boxes, CentOS boxes, labs, those are Ubuntu boxes, other Ubuntu boxes. But I don't have to call them like these labs. You might say, well, Scott, shouldn't you name them like how you did your CentOS 7 and 8 and Ubuntu? No. I did those for me when I first built those out, so I would be able to differentiate. But remember, Ansible inside of setup can differentiate. So I could just name these all one thing, and then I got the dungeons down here. Those are down right now, but any new servers that I built out, which by the way are all of our Ubuntu servers, but Ansible can tell me which ones they are, and then I can do decisions in my environment based on what kind of the Ansible major OS deployment and the Ansible OS major version, right? So we can find all of these pieces of information in our playbooks. So we're going to do a little bit of that here. We're going to create a Jinja 2 template called root template.j2. That's the normal extension. I told you guys extensions can be literally whatever you want, but it'll probably make it easier for you in life to just name things templates that follow along with, you know, other things. And we're going to stamp values on each of the hosts as you execute a playbook. So it's going to take the template file in Jinja. It's going to populate it with the variable commands, the variable outputs that we have for each of those servers, and then it's going to place it on those servers. We're going to create a playbook called root template push to push this to our different servers, and then we're going to verify that the root template.txt is on all the servers. That's what we're going to do. If you get stuck, there's your answers, and you come down here, and we can start with more of root template.yaml. And here's what it's going to do. It's going to take servers, which is the name of our host group within our inventory file. It's got control plane and node 01 in it. And it's going to use the template module that we have not used before. Hey, how's it going, guys? Thanks for the raid. How's it been going over there? What were you guys working on? And I apologize that my alerts are just busted right now. I've been playing with my alerts, and for some reason the source is just completely busted. Look, I can do all these things. I can do all my other things, but I can't do that. But yeah, I appreciate the raid. Hopefully this stuff's all useful to you guys. Follows are free, so if you guys don't follow him, you should. Playing Helldiver. Nice. Good old Helldivers. Yeah, I've seen a fair amount of that over time. I haven't played that game yet, but then again, I'm not as good at first-person shooters as I was when I was in my 20s. Also, I've been working a lot on my doctorate, and we've been working on, so what you guys have stumbled into is the big old mess of my labs, which labs are here. Labs are free up in Killer Coda. You don't pay anything. You can just go sign up with an email or just go in through Google Federated. It's super easy. You get a lab environment that looks like this, drops you in. All the stuff you have to do is on the left. In fact, in my labs, it's so easy. It just copies, you push the buttons and just does the answers for you. Yeah, so hopefully this stuff's useful to you guys. Yeah. And what I have is I have a book that goes along with it. The book is the only thing in any of the stuff that I do that costs anything because it's on LeanPub. So I tell people, if you want to dig in and go write and journal and really dig into stuff, you can use the book. But if you don't need that, you can just hang out and do the lab. Labs are free. You do the lab every single day until you finally understand it too, right? So, but we're adding to the book in real time. So for this lab, let's verify that we can push. Oh, actually, let's go look at everything real quick. So we look at the template.yaml, and then let's look at what the actual template is in Jinja. This template here is just a bunch of information. And some of you might have seen something like this before. If you guys have ever played, when you were kids, you'd get like a little book of Mad Libs or Ad Libs, and you and your friends would sit around and you'd be like, okay, give me a noun, and you'd be like, okay, a bumblebee, and give me an adverb, and you'd be like, I don't know what an adverb is, and then you go, well, give me an adjective, and you're like, a big, and then it's like a big bumblebee, and so your friends are filling out a thing, and you don't get to see the story, but then it puts in all of the things that you asked it for. Well, I mean, if that's something you didn't do as a child, that's fine. This is what we're doing now. It's basically the same thing. It's going to take those variables that we saw earlier, so Ansible date time dot date and Ansible date time dot time, and as it executes and pushes this to the machine, it's going to put the variables in on those places and stamp this box with the information that Ansible knows about it. So you might look at this and go, Scott, well, one, let me see it work first. All right, so let's see it work. Let's run the playbook. And it's going to stamp on both of the machines. They'll tell us what it's doing, which is nice. It's documenting for us. But then let's go look at what's on both of those machines. Well, on node 01, we've got its host name as node 01, its system is Debian, and its processors, its number of processors is 1. Then down here, we've got control plane, Debian, and 1. So we got some information about it. So I go, okay, well that's good. That's kind of useful. That was the output from this. But could I add some things to it? So I think over here I said, what is the variable notation in Ansible? How do you call a variable? Well, I call a variable by 2 open curly brackets and 2 closed curly brackets. That's how I call my variables. And I said, can you add the Ansible datetime.tz variable to the Jinja 2 template, and did it work when you repush the servers? So I say, yeah, I think I can do that, right? So the book just adds some things that aren't necessarily over here. So we VI, and I go, okay, well, there's that, and then maybe I say time zone. You could do this any way you wanted. Ansible date time. By the way, I could steal this from myself right here, right? But I said over here that it's Ansible date time dot tz. That was the tz. Escape : WQ, right? Rerun the playbook, repush the files, and then let's look at them again, which is this command that just cats it. This just cats it for us. And now we see UTC as the time zone. So now you might look at that and you go, well, Scott, hold on a second. Hold on. I like it, but I'm not buying. How did you know that it was the .tz? How do you find that? And I go, well, that's good. That's a good, astute thing. Well, what we can do with Ansible, since when we do like an ad hoc command like I'm doing right here, I can do the setup module, and then I can give the argument to filter Ansible date time, right? So I'm just going to filter by Ansible date time. So if as I kind of learn this stuff and as I read this, now here's my variable, Ansible _ date _ time dot date. That's our one thing that we're getting. And then dot time is the other one that we're getting. And then now we've got TZ in there as well. So now we've got, if I just cat root Jinja, what is that? Push. What the hell's it called? Template.txt. Right? So real quick, I'm going to rerun that so we have it. And I'll just do this at the bottom so you guys can see it. And I could put anything I want to right in there from this. Right? Anything that I could find here. And I always show you guys, I like ISO 8601 basic short. By the way, ISO 8601 is a very common time standard inside of systems in general. I'm always telling you guys, ISO 8601, this right here is probably like the most parsed API timestamp format ever. ISO 8601, if it's not 100% of all APIs on planet Earth, I'd be willing to bet you it's like 95% of them. in the English language at least. This is the way that we parse time, right here. So it's year, month, day, time, 24-hour clock in hours, minutes, seconds, and then Z. And that could be Zulu, but I'm not 100% sure. Somebody may know what the Z stands for. I can go find out, though. ISO 8601 is a pretty well-published standard that you can go find, right? Okay. And then I said, why is it so important to know that all your servers are set to the same time? From an enterprise perspective, that's very important. If I have, I used to run, when I ran all the platform engineering for AAA, I was across all of the U.S. So we had, there's 5 time zones in the U.S. 5? 7. There's 3 time zones in CONUS, U.S., which is the continental United States. But then we also have Hawaii out there, and we also have Alaska, which I think Alaska might be in 2. So I think it's like 7. Yeah, typically it stands for Zulu, Robodom. I'm not 100% sure if it means that there. But one of the things that we do in servers world when we work with a lot of stuff, to correlate logs, we set the logs to one standard time. And a lot of time people will use UTC. Because UTC starts the day no matter where you're at. So me, if I look at UTC right here, this system's on UTC time. It's 11:51 at night, but for me it's only 16. It's 4:52, so it's 16:52 here, but it's 23 there. But if we're all on UTC, all of my servers are logging at the same time, no matter where they are in the country or world. It makes correlation of log events a million times easier. And I tell you guys, I've known some smart guys that could probably hold about 5 or 6 time zones in their head trying to look at stuff. But once you start getting up around like 7, 8, or 9, or 10, you're not going to be able to keep track of all your, trying to keep every server like level. It's easier to just have everything on the same time zone. So a lot of us will set at the system level time to be the same, so that as it feeds off into logging systems, it's already the same. You don't have to worry about trying to keep everything the same. All right. So that's that. And it says, what happens if you set gather facts variable to false? Does the play still run? So let's go look. So we're going to break some stuff. We're going to look at our playbook that we were modifying here. We'll VI it. And I said, what if we set gather facts to false? Right? This is one of those things, like what we call like the hacker mentality of being an engineer is the idea that I will just say, well, what happens when I do something? Let's set it to false and try to push this to all my servers. Here's my playbook, push this over. I think, yeah, as we see, it's going to break fantastically. It got to that first variable. And this variable doesn't exist because we didn't run factor. There was no, we turned off gather facts true, so factor never ran, never gave us all that information, and we couldn't stamp that down, so it broke fantastically for us. None of these other things ever got gathered either, so they wouldn't have worked either, but it broke on the first instance of it. So sometimes when you see this stuff, you can go, this is pretty useful. I know what the problem was, even if I hadn't went and broken it. Yeah, UTC is huge, Robodom. You probably keep all your stuff on the same standard there. All right, so let's go put this back to true, right? Set it back to true. So as we were thinking about this logically, we saw that that's true, and then I said, can you capture the kernel value and stamp it to all servers? So I'm gonna let you guys think about that for a second while I go look at the published version. I hit the preview button earlier, and I'm gonna download the PDF. So I wanted to check to make sure that these were looking right before I kept going. So I'm gonna pull this up right here, and here's what the lab book looks like. This is the actual published book here, and I've been working down here in the Ansible ones. So I just want to make sure that this looks good. Yeah. So here's the lab link and the digging deeper. You click here, it pulls up. I need to make that. Hold on. I need to make that pop up in a different. Did I do that in one of my other ones? Talks about how we learn Linux, how we learn things in general. And then this was earlier, so I was doing this and this. I do think I need to fix that. But ad hoc commands, we were doing these earlier. Lab link, digging deeper, read about ad hoc commands here. Comments there. Okay. And one of the things I do when I'm all done with this, by the way, guys, is I will, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I will go through and I will click on every link. I will do every single link to make sure that it still goes to the lab that I want to. This lab will break because I'm already in a lab. You can only be in one lab at a time on Killer Code unless you pay them, which is fine. You know, I like to know that that's going on. Okay, so this was a preview. This is what the book looks like. It just walks you through and it makes you think about these different pieces of how some of these things might work for you. All right, so that's what the book looks like. All right, come back over here. It broke, and I said, could you capture the kernel value and stamp it to the server? So there's a few ways to do this. One is you can go do your setup and say Ansible kernel, right? And look for Ansible kernel, everything that's related to Ansible kernel. And there's our Ansible kernel version. So it's actually named just like we might have thought it was. Ansible kernel version, Ansible kernel. So I might just grab this and say, you know, go look at our Jinja 2 template, EI it, shift to the bottom and say kernel version. Oops. And then maybe kernel was this one, right? And then now if I go push that everywhere, I fixed the other part. Good. So that pushed everywhere. And then if we go just cat out the text on the machines, now it's got the kernel version information and the actual kernel right there. Which, by the way, if you want to verify, there's the kernel that we're on. You really, so that's the best way to verify. But you could do a dmessage and then head, which will give you the first 10 lines of how the system started. And there's your kernel version right there as well. And there's also the kernel being called right there as well. So yeah, but this is uname-r will give you the running kernel of the Linux box, so that's always valuable. But if you were just like, I don't trust the tool until I see it work by hand, well, there you go. There's all your pieces. Capture the kernel version and stamp it to all servers. Yeah, I can. So you might look at this and go, Scott, that's a nice little diddle. That's a nice little thing, but that's not really gonna do anything great for us. And I say, no, maybe not. But what about that software, the last two playbooks that we just did? So we just jumped, this is lab 6, but this is 7. What about 5 and 6, where we went and deployed a software package to a server? What if, after I did that, I pushed a little template file over? And what if in that template file, I just said, this file was generated as we deployed this software at this date and time. Here's the kernel version. Here's, system, and I have relevant system information that I want to be known about how it was done. And then when somebody comes later and they say, hey, we've never touched those servers, but your software doesn't work on them anymore. And you go, really? You never touched them? And then you're like, are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? You know that guy. And I think it's Tim Robbins, You Should Leave, or whatever that show is. He's like, are you sure about that? Anyways, you go and you find that the uname-r shows a newer version of the kernel than when you installed it on the system. Now, engineering is not about pointing fingers and going, you guys broke your shit, or patching broke your shit, or whatever. Engineering is more about being precise, and in my mind, we could use it, and we can get into big shitting contests with each other and throw shit over at each other in meetings and argue and get managers involved and stuff. But for me, I care more to tell them, hey guys, you know what? Actually, this was deployed and the system's been updated, and you need to go to a new version of this or whatever, right? Like I have a new one that actually needs to be deployed over this again. I would rather have that kind of ability, and that's what we call expert knowledge in a company, rather than like some kind of other expert authority in a company where Like, you should listen to me because I know what I'm doing, as opposed to like some type of other authority in a company where like we have problems and that kind of stuff. Yeah, engineering is the same as systems. I would say it is. Yeah, I mean systems engineering is a subset. All engineering, I would say, is a subset of, or all systems engineering is a subset of engineering. I would say, yeah. You'll hear me use everything interchangeably around here. I'm not super pedantic about how we talk, right? Now, if you were in a college class of mine, I'm pretty pedantic, but when I'm doing it out here, just hanging out and stuff with you guys, I'm not like that. But my point in showing you guys all this is I can find information, and I tell you guys often, it's not to like shit on somebody else or to tell them you're dumb and I'm smart and whatever. It's more about doing the right thing so that the problem can get solved, and then you can just go do whatever else you want. Like me, I just want to go watch Netflix, right? Hey, Moon Pie Dumplings, how's it going? We're building out some Ansible labs, and we are testing them and adding more to them. So we did this. Can we capture the kernel version? We did all that stuff. So let's go find some other cool stuff. There's Ranger down there. Let's go find some Ansible Jinja templates. And templating Jinja 2. Do they have... They obviously have how we do templates, and that's fine. Here's a template module, and that's useful. Got some other maybe good stuff that we can do. By the way, I'm only using the template in one way, to stamp something. They show that you could use it for all kinds of things. You could use it to customize the way that an Etsy SSH SSHD underscore config is set up based on whether it's like an exposed SSH within your company, like it's one that goes out to the world, or it's an internal only. You can change up how things work. In this case, they're pushing sudoers as a template. In this case, they're pushing SSH config, SSHD config as a template as well. So there's there's a lot of ways to do this stuff. Look, they're even pushing over to Windows in this one. Config.ini for Windows, right? In a DOS style text file for a template. It'll give you a bunch of return values if you want, so you can see how it was pushed. Let's see if so digging deeper, how about this? Read about the Jinja, or read about the template module here. Read about Jinja 2 templating language here. Let's go find Jinja documentation. We want to make sure that we're on want to make sure that we're on like an official documentation, I think. See, this is just the basics of it. Here we go. Some what's that other one? Hold on. Or some arguments or return values. So down here at the bottom, there's all these arguments, right? There's all these other things that we didn't do. Hey, Inspector, how's it going? There's all these things that we didn't do in the lab. And I say, what are some useful arguments here that you might want to do? What are some things that you might do? One of these things, when they push the template, there's a validate command. Well, that's interesting. What does validate do? Validate will go run something to validate that your sudoers that you pushed over and as a template was good. And if not, you can actually have that roll back, right? Look, here's some more information. It'll validate by running the sshd command. So you can have validation commands, right? Let's say, what is the validate command and how might, or what is the validate argument? How might you use that in your playbooks? Right? So that's kind of the first part. In fact, I'm going to change this. I'm going to grab this and pull this out. And this will be 2. And that'll be 3. And this will be 4 here. So 4. And then we'll start asking questions about, it's weird, this. So like read the one, what are some questions, read the next one, and then some questions. Copy binary to multiple next endpoints and run that binary one. So, oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. A runny dude, you absolutely could. Yeah, and actually one of the things, I don't show this in any of these labs, but Ansible, by default right here, when I run Ansible, it is by default right here using keys. So we have keys in this environment. I could SSH to node 01. I can exit back out, right? I'm using keys. But with Ansible, you actually, if you didn't have keys, like when I started using Ansible in 2013, I actually started using it because I was on a federal government project for, it was the Affordable Care Act. So if you guys are familiar with what the Affordable Care Act was, if a state chose to not be part of the federal Affordable Care Act marketplace, they got $100 million to build their own. So I worked on all of those different things. I worked for a company called CGI, which they were in the news a lot when the big federal site crashed, but I was working on the other sites. I was actually working on all the Linux underneath them. But we were not in a federal environment allowed to use keys anywhere. So watch this. I can give a K and a K like this. And what this does is this tells Ansible, well, let's just watch what it does. It says, I'm going to provide an SSH password. And then, if I knew it or didn't, it would say, what's the become password? That's the capital K. So I could feed those at the command line if I had to do like what you're describing there, and I couldn't use keys, right? If for some reason I couldn't use keys. And I love this. I can go in as my Scott user, whoever that is, become root on a box, push over my payload, run all my Ansible, come back out and jump to my system. If you don't give the dash capital K for the become, which is a sudo attempt by default, then the lowercase k with the regular password, that same password will be attempted because it's almost always the same password. It'll be attempted as the sudoers password. So that's it. KK, just like that. Yeah, so you could absolutely do that. Yeah. And you could run it as an ad hoc command. It would be something like this. Like if I just had some file here, right? I want to push this host file to both nodes. It would be something like this: Ansible servers, right? So if we cat root host real quick, there's our servers. Ansible servers -i root host. So we're using that file specifically. mcopy, and the argument is we're going to say source is equal to this host file, let's say, and then destination is equal to like temp hosts, right? We'll just copy it over there. This will copy that servers. It's servers. I messed up. So servers. I was doing that to test you guys. That'll push to both of those boxes. Yeah, MoonPie. I definitely use Vault for encrypting passwords and stuff like that as well. I have a lab later. Actually, I have a lab in a different area where we do all the Vault stuff to kind of secure passwords and stuff. But yeah, now we push that file to both places, and then if I just needed to execute that file, I would just change this to this right here. Let's just say that was an executable file. I would just say shell, and then the argument would be run that file as hosts, if that was a file. Why did they like passwords over keys? Oh, that was a government thing. This was 2013, so the standards were different. but we were not. Yeah, we were not allowed to have a keyed environment. Probably because, I mean, here's the idea of keys, right? If you have a key and a key is ever compromised, the blast radius is as big as that key radius, and I think that's what the government's idea is. And I used to explain to people, but if root's compromised, we already have some other problem. They're like, yeah, we get that, but it's still blast. So the FedRAMP system that I was on, it was called there's a billion FedRAMP systems, but it was a FedRAMP system. Yeah, I had to use my password to log into each thing, and that's how I used to do it, was with Ansible with that KK. Right? Just like that. Blast diameter. Yeah. Not blast radius, blast diameter. Fair. Yeah, defense in depth, government stuff. Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys know the government used to have, you had to have like a 14, I think it might have been on some of the systems, it was like a 17 character password, and it couldn't ever be reused. They keep track of it forever. That's a hat. That's a big mess. All right, let's go look here in the template designer. What's the what syntax to find for now, anybody that had done the lab would already know the syntax, but I still have it down there. What is a filter? How might you use it? If you're familiar with Python, does that look familiar to you? And because filters are used in Python as well. It was 11 years ago. Yeah, I started using Ansible 11 years ago. And I joke around a lot about the cult of Ansible, but man, if I can do something in Ansible, I never have to do it again. I can just set it to run or whatever my tooling is. Yeah. Yep. I tell some of you guys too, I've been doing this stuff for 20 years, so like a lot of my stuff is just kind of keeps going. All right. So that's a good, I think that's a good little digging deeper section for that. Let's go look at the Jinja 2 reports now. So, I did all this first stuff. Ranger down there. Now we're gonna do Lab 8, which will be Jinja reports. Lab 8. First found it one. Yeah, it's probably served you pretty well, because it tends to just do what we need. So I'm going to pin this new lab manually and oh gosh, I've been missing. Sorry guys, I've been missing some of you guys on the YouTube side, but yeah, Kraken, I'm not necessarily hacking right now, but I'm just teaching system stuff. So yeah, sorry about that, Kraken. Man, that might have been a while ago too. I apologize, but yeah, we're doing system stuff. I have this set where it's supposed to flip between the two, but yeah, I missed that. So yeah, Robodom, I've been on YouTube as well. Yeah, just the last few days I've been kind of streaming on both again. I have no. Here's the thing, right? I have no delusions of grandeur. We're never going to be like a really big stream, but the goal is to find people that are doing this stuff and want to get more into doing this stuff professionally. And I think the people that want to do that'll they'll work themselves in here. Also, guys, I apologize for missing the follows. Random dev, hopefully this stuff's useful to you. My stupid alert box is broken as of, it's funny, it was broken like a week ago, and then it worked the other day, and now it's broken again. So it's just busted. Just garbage. Anyways, so we'll keep working on this stuff. Less stuff, chats to read. Yeah. Actually, you know what? There's a multi-stream thing here. Let me look at this real quick. What does that look like? Multi-stream. Doesn't have anything on there. Yeah. Streamlabs has to up their game, or as people were mentioning earlier, I might end up going back over. So I used to use OBS a long time ago, and not even for streaming, just for recording stuff. OBS can do some pretty cool stuff. But yeah, I mean, all my other stuff's working. Like, I can answer that for money. And this is working. And that's working. That's work. But my stupid stream is great. Shame for others that aren't here. Yeah. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you guys. I try to make this stuff useful. But yeah, Kraken, I apologize. I missed your comments earlier. If you're still around on the YouTube side, I missed the comments earlier. All right, so let's keep going. So this one is talking about Ginger reports. So now, Ginger reports are I've probably gotten the most mileage out of this one thing in Ansible of all the things that I use. This has probably gotten me the most like pats on the back by management and just this has been super useful for me because the way I do this is I run things and then I get reports back of how the playbook ran and how and you might say, well, doesn't it give you all that output at the end? And you're like, well, yeah, but it's to the console, and I can take these reports and I can take these Ginger reports and I can feed them out to Slack and Discord. Some of you guys in Discord, you see like if my main jump box ever reboots, it reports out to Discord, right? So I know that something's happened and it'll alert my phone no matter where I'm at that something's happened to my main jump box and I need to work it back up and get it back working again, right? Okay, so Ginger templates here. That's the lab. It's pinned. If anybody wants to do it with me, let's go. It says verify your host file, cat root hosts. We do that every lab. Create a deploy playbook called root template.yaml to check the uptime of all servers. So we're going to make a playbook that's just going to check how long these servers have been up. Then we're going to create a Ginger2 template file to report that deploy to deploy the report text upon execution of the playbook. This is only going to go to one server. This one, we're not gonna put the report on all the other ones. Like on the last lab, we stamped things everywhere to tell a machine the state that it was going to be in. This one is on our local system. All right. And then I also want to report back the unreachable servers, and I want to know if any servers have been up longer than a day. And some of you might say, well, why would you ever want to know that? When I'm done patching, at the end of patch night, if I've upgraded if I've installed a new kernel, and we are moving to the new kernel, you never upgraded kernel, right? You always install a new kernel. So if you, at the end of the night, if I had 30 servers or 300 servers that I patched, I do not expect any of them to be up longer than a day. And you say, well, yeah, because I had to reboot them to get the new kernel, right? Like, there's some hot patching stuff, and there's some finagling you can try to do to move to new kernels and stuff, but I'm gonna highly advise against that in the enterprise. It causes all kinds of instability. It causes all kinds of problems. I've never seen that done in the enterprise anywhere. I've heard tell of it in Amazon. I've heard tell of it, like, somebody's always telling me a story about just over that next hill, some engineers are doing that thing, and then I get over there and they're just sitting there like with wires in their hands, and they, things aren't working like people say. So, I've seen live patching, but not moving to new kernels. Not in production systems, never. No. I know you can do it. I've live patched stuff, but moving to like a new kernel while you're on it, no, I've never seen that. Not in a production system, no. I hear about it. I've heard all over. Like I've seen it on AWS and I've run patches. Yeah, I can change things about kernels, but like moving to like new versions of kernels, it's just I've never seen it done. So I think it'd be interesting. I mean, I've done it in labs, let's say, but I've never seen it run professionally. Cattle, not pets. Kill them all. Yeah, just restart them, right? That's the idea between a stateful and a stateless node too. All right, so here's the answers. The answers are all there if you guys want them. But then it says how you can look at this. So cat root hosts, see that, and then we start this little playbook. So more root template .yaml, YML or YAML, and in this lab right here, what are we doing now? Let's make this a little bigger so we can see. And it says that basic start of all of our labs start the same way. We do a shell command for uptime on all the boxes, and we register the uptime. Uptime is going to look just like this. So there's the format. This box has been up 1 hour and 23 minutes. If it had been up for more than 24 hours, it would say 1 day right there. That's one of the cool things about uptime. Once it gets to days, it'll say 113 days or whatever, right? In my lab. But these ones are all shorter. So I register uptime. And then I say, when we're all done, make a template file, and we're going to take the source as root template.j2, and the destination where we're going to stamp it on only this one box, this one run once localhost, stamp root report dot, and we're going to drop in the Ansible datetime ISO 8601 basic short variable that we've looked at, dot text. That's it. So it's going to pull all this information. Let's see what's in that file. So we cat root template.j2. And this is significantly more advanced than the last one we just did. When you guys saw before, all I was doing was calling variables and stamping them down. This was really the only thing that was saved from the last one. Now we've got unreachable systems, and we're doing a for loop, right? So there's a control structure here with an end for. And then we're looking over all of Ansible playhosts. And then, or playhosts all, and then we're looking for Ansible playhosts at the end. So right here, let's look at what I've got in the lab here. How is what we're doing here different from what we did in the other lab? How is it similar? Well, it's still Jinja 2, it's still variables. But how is it different? We're only stamping on one box. We're not hitting all of our nodes with this, so that's different. When you run this, are there any nodes showed in the report output? Why or why not? Well, do we see any nodes in the report output? Why or why not? Add a node to root host and see if it comes up in the report. Remove the node and rerun it. So let's run this playbook real quick. We'll finish the lab, and then we'll go do those things. So we'll run it, and then if we just cat this, whatever's reported out, here's what it looks like. There's no unreachable systems, and there's no hosts that have been up longer than a day. Well, we know that. Okay. But then I vi root hosts, and I just make node 02. And then I rerun the playbook. Node 02 doesn't exist, guys, but it broke right there. It showed that it was unreachable. So now we go and we look at this, and in this second, this was the first output. This is the second output. We see node 02 was unreachable. So how did I do that though? Let's think about how we did this, because this is what's going to be important for you guys that are trying to learn this. Can you see the debug output and the uptime variable that's been registered? So can you debug the output? We could debug the output if we want to. We could just run a debug. And I said in Jinja 2, what is the syntax for control structure? What control structure did we use, and how did they help support our work correctly? So that goes back to the other thing that we just did, which is right here. Let's grab this again, because we're going to need this again. We'll go look at that here in a second. Ranger's not on his bed. Ranger's walking. Ranger's out doing something. So you come down here and say, what is the syntax for control structure? Let's look at this real quick. This is really important for you guys that want to, if you want to learn this, this is really important. There's a thing that I did here where we have Ansible playhosts all, and then we have Ansible playhosts right here. This is how this block of code right here, this block of code that's right there, I use this same exact one across every one of these playbooks, every one of these Jinja 2 templates I've ever written, this one right here. Because it's doing a very simple thing. I'm going to link something to you guys here. Ansible special variables. Ansible special variables. This is such a huge thing right here for you guys to know. There are special variables that are called magic variables too. And they are all throughout Ansible, and all Ansible plays always have them. But I want you guys to look at these two. Ansible playhosts all, and Ansible playhosts. And then I'm gonna tell you something about these in a second. But Ansible playhosts all is everybody that was targeted, every node that was targeted. And Ansible playhosts is the list of hosts in the current play run. So what's currently there? So think of this like a race. There's like a foot race, and you have like 10 people lined up, and they're all standing, or 8 people, because that's all the lanes, and they're all standing, and when they hear the gun go off, they're all going to start running, right? All those people that were in the blocks at the beginning is Ansible playhosts all. So over here at the start of the race, they're all there. They all start running. Ansible playhosts is a variable that at any time in that playbook, if somebody dies or falls over or is unreachable or whatever, they are taken out of Ansible playhosts. So at the start of the race, Ansible playhosts all and Ansible playhosts are the same. But as you move through this race and people are falling out and nodes are breaking and something was unreachable and some service wasn't there, anytime you see that red in your playbook, they're getting taken out of play hosts. So at the end, if we do something simple like this, where we loop over Ansible play hosts all, everybody that started, and just see if they're there at the end. And if they're not there, put their name right there. That's all I did. That's the simplest thing. There's actually a shorter way to do that with a filter, but I lost it. I had it in some of my Ansible code somewhere, and I forgot how to do it. And you guys will find that once I find a way that works, I never go back and look for another way. And I couldn't find it, so this is the way that I do it now. So that is the way that I determine. And guys, I have a playbook that runs every morning against 12. It's 1,211 nodes on one of my clusters. It's actually sitting right here. I'm looking at it from today. It's 1,211 ungrouped 0. One of the environments 0. The newer environment 96. A newer environment 555. A newer environment 208, and then the newest environment 212. And I have all of this information broken out over here in this little template. I wish I could strip that down of information and show to you guys, but I don't have a good way to do that. And by the way, that gets reported out to teams. So this is just stamping to a file. I could write it out to teams. I can write it out to Discord. If you guys want to see things that get written out to Discord, we go in our Discord here, and you go down to Sandbox. Our Sandbox at? All of our Sandbox stuff. This is when things have been written out. This is Ansible right here. Report of either deploying or removing our Bastion system. Apparently I removed it back in March. That's been a while. I haven't even been in here. But here's all of our different things that get written out there by different stuff. Grafana was being annoying there for a while. Different lab stuff. Anyways, there's stuff for you guys to play with in there. And there's ways to write out there if you get involved with the server and want to write things or practice like webhooks in Discord. I do have webhooks available for people that want them. And like as long as they're not being, being crazy. Yeah, the boss is walking. Yeah, Ranger's walking. I missed that earlier. All right, so come over here. And I said, what's the control structure syntax? Well, it starts with an open curly bracket and a percentage sign, and then a percentage sign and a closed curly bracket. And inside of there, you can start for loops and you can end for. So whenever you start one, you have to end it. And then in this case, I have a nested if statement. I say if uptime is defined, and there's my end if for that on the outside. And then if day is in the host vars host, so it's going to drop in the host name here. So host vars control plane or node 01. Then uptime.stdout, which is going to be that variable. If day is in there, then drop its name here. But none of them are because these haven't been up longer than a day. Right? They neither of them have been up for longer than a day. So they've both been up for a pretty short amount of time, an hour and 32, and it'll go away afterwards. Oh, Q, thanks for the gifted subs to the community. I apologize, my things are busted, so I'm glad that I actually looked up and saw that because I wouldn't even have known. But yeah, I appreciate that. If you got a gifted sub, make sure you say thank you, and well, you don't have to, but thank your gifter, all that good stuff. But the goal of this is, again, to get you guys looking at this and going, hey, I could do that better. And guys, most of the time you probably can too. How are we doing? I'm doing pretty good. Less than T. Hopefully my stuff's good. There's Ross Burger. Hope maybe Ross got one of those. I don't know. Somebody just gave a nice gifted sub. But what we're doing is we're updating my book. My book's out on LeanPub, and we are adding to some of the Ansible stuff. Ross, I didn't even see you stream today. Were you streaming earlier? I didn't even see you on. I know you'll stream tomorrow at the same time as me, and then sometimes I go over and raid you. By the way, all I do on Sundays, guys, when I'm online, all I do on Sundays is labs. So these labs that are up in Killer Coda that are free for anybody to use. Killer Coda, by the way, I think is the best, maybe the best hands-on service around for like just getting into a Linux environment. So Oh, nice, Q. Yeah, I always like to hear that you got into stuff. And you're moving, right, Q? I believe you're moving. Um, if that's going, yeah, that's awesome. By the way, let's go check on Ranger. This is my dog. He's downstairs. He's got a couple of beds. He's got his own fireplace. Although it was 92 degrees today in Phoenix. In fact, it might still. Oh, it's 93 right now. Oh, God. 93, guys. Do you know how hot that is? Moving in 3 weeks to New York City. Man. Q, you're not going to be far from Ross. Ross is in New York, but he's not in New York City. He's off in some other. I don't even know what happens in the rest of New York. I just know that there's a place in New York called New York City. So he got a new job, Ross. So he's moving up there, and it's a nice pay bump. Which I won't talk about anybody else's business like that, but I will say it's nice to know that you can make a little more if you spend some time in this industry and do all that kind of stuff. So that's always good. And I always tell guys like you get your it's your own accomplishments, but I just like to kind of be there to like help people along and stuff, because I tell you guys all the time, if you watch me do this stuff and you're like, God damn, this guy, man, I can't believe this guy makes good money doing this stuff as an engineer. It's because I really think any of you guys could do it. I really think that you could spend time and learn this kind of stuff. So, all right, let's get our lab going. So look, this is a bunch of stuff, and when it gets stamped down, again, guys, you can look at these Jinja templates as though they were just like an ad lib. You and your buddies are sitting there, give me a noun, give me a pronoun, give me a whatever, and it will dump all of that stuff in as you build it out. So that's all we're doing here. So it'll go run it. There's node 02 doesn't exist. And then if we go and we cat out our most recent report.txt, it's this one right here. And it's hosts that have been up longer than a day. Oh, here's our system validation. We just wanted to see what servers were there, right? Those other ones were from our last runs. Less than T, if it ever looks like I know anything, it's just because I've been doing this for a long time. It's the same thing I tell people, like I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 20 years, and people be like, man, you know like a lot of stuff, and I'm like, it's just because I look around and I'm like the guy that's still on the mat, you know, I'm the guy that's still doing it. Everybody else has quit. I've had two of my good friends and training partners have just got injured in the last couple weeks, and I'm just like, I don't get injured, and I just keep showing up, and they're just like, here's the next belt, here's the next belt, it just keeps going, you know. And yeah, Rossberger, I'm two things. I'm the smartest guy I know, and I'm humble about it. No, I'm just kidding. But I tell you guys all the time, like as far as being smart in the engineering world, one of the things that I think really helps is when you realize you don't have to be the smartest guy in the room anymore. Like I tell people all the time, I've worked with some of the smartest engineers around at Lockheed Martin. I'm going over to a NASA Ames project soon, so I'll be doing NASA stuff. And I will be working with people way smarter than me. But all those people, I have always garnered a lot of support from them, and they've always liked me because I'm the guy over here building shit, getting it done. And I tell people all the time, because they'll see my stuff and they'll be like, that's all you're doing? And I'm like, it's all simple. I don't do anything super complex. In fact, you guys think I'm joking, but like Pico that's in our Discord, and some of these other guys that have worked with me physically and actually know me, I'll show them how to do something, and then they'll come show me something like a week later. They'll be like, Scott, will you review this for me? And I'll be like, holy shit, this guy already knows this better than me. So I'm very good at doing very basic things, and I tell you guys all the time, you can do this stuff too. So don't think that you guys don't have the ability to do this stuff. So all right, hey, Max does DevOps. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you guys. My alerts are busted today. Again, I was saying this earlier. Like, there's something going on with Twitch, because I just rebuilt my Twitch alert and it's still not coming up. So, and IPv6 will get you less than T. By the way, less than T, did you ever go? I don't know if Inspector is still around. There's a certification for IPv6 out there. Did you know that? It's a free cert you can get, and I think it's free, and they send you a shirt when you do it. Have you heard about that? Where's Inspector at? Is Inspector still around? I'm pretty sure there's a free IPv. Yeah, it's from these guys right here, Hurricane Electric. And every time I see the name, oh, there's Inspector. Yeah. So less than T. If you're having trouble with that stuff, go spend some time with this, because they have some really good labs. Yeah. So Inspector can hook you up with it. He gave you the link right there. let's see, inspectors on our VIP. Maybe that's where I was like, wait a minute, who gave inspector the ability to put shit in our chat? Oh God. I mean, we love inspector, but we don't get inspector riled up, guys. He will lose the thread of the stream here. All right. So we were doing this. We were talking about how Ansible works and how Jinja reporting works and all this kind of stuff. So we're good there. Let's check. And it says, look at you learning Ansible templates. You solved this challenge. So the challenge part of it's done. I've been adding to the book, so I just keep doing on the digging deeper. Some information here. So let's put some special variables here. And I'm going to say read about the Ansible special variables here. Oops. Here. Oh God, I can't type. Man, if I ever lose my ability to type, I actually got armbarred pretty hard yesterday, and I actually, like, my hand was numb when I was typing in the morning, and I'm like, oh gosh, I'm not gonna. And I don't get armbarred very often, guys. It's probably like once a month somebody catches me in an armbar. But I got caught, and it was not good. And my hand, it felt like if you've ever like banged a hammer like on an anvil, like it's just, or if you ever played baseball, you have like that ringing in your elbow. And I kind of had that going. It was kind of funny. But yeah, if you guys don't follow Rossberger, he does a good amount of kind of game streaming and stuff. And I kind of hang out with him in the morning, even if it's just lurking, because it's kind of like a radio. Because I don't drive anymore. Like, well, I mean, I drive, but I mean, I don't drive to work anymore. I don't have a commute. But a lot of us as engineers will just have some sound on, you know. So Ross is always doing puzzles and then killing people in Dead by Daylight. And if you guys haven't been around to know this, I have some strange fascination with watching people get hung up on meat hooks. I don't know what my problem is. Probably comes from the time in the infantry. But anyway, so like in this case, we're gonna say, how did we use Ansible play hosts and Ansible play hosts all in the Jinja template? Why might you use them in your own playbooks? Let's make this a new one. What other special variables might be useful to know about? So the reason this is so important, what I'm talking about right there, is I think Twitch is good background noise. Sometimes I'll get off of it and go watch something else, but a lot of times in the morning I'll just be kind of watching. And then it's funny, like if you ever watch, so again, Dead by Daylight is fun. And if you don't think it's fun, there's a lot of people that watch Dead by Daylight because it is kind of fun. There's a difference between like if somebody's playing Survivor and if somebody's playing Killer. And what I mean by that is, as background noise, if the person's the killer, you are constantly hearing people scream getting hung up on meat hooks, right? But if they're playing a Survivor, it's much more quiet, and you very rarely hear their character scream because they're only getting caught 1 out of every 4 people, let's say on average, right? So it's interesting. Like Ross almost always plays killer, so like you're just hearing people just get hung up on meat hooks while you're doing other stuff. But if somebody's playing Survivor, it's like much more quiet and kind of mellow. And you look over, and then all of a sudden, like you see this red. There's like a little red stain as the killer's coming at you, and you see the people like, and they're all scared and stuff. So it's kind of funny. Yeah, Robodom, I have fans. Like actually, I have a lot of noise in my lab in general. By the way, man, somebody should have told me. I broke this earlier. I didn't realize. Sorry guys, I didn't realize my closed captioning was busted. My bad. I apologize. Yeah, I haven't had closed captioning on for a while, apparently. So I apologize, guys. Yeah, you guys haven't been able to see what I was talking about. There you go. Back. I think it was when I was looking at something earlier. So, yeah, so you look through these and look at all the guys. Look at all this stuff that's going on that the playbook is aware of. Q, yeah, I use Power. Yeah, every time like somebody asks about that, I think it's fun. Yeah, it's PowerPoint, just PowerPoint in the background. PowerPoint has its own closed captioning that you can turn on or off, and it's pretty accurate. It's hard. Like if I start rattling off 192.168.0.1, it doesn't get those very good. But other than that, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's surprisingly sharp for most things. It loses on some of the engineering stuff, that's for sure, though. Yeah, but I think that's kind of funny. On the Ansible side, oh, sorry, over here, on the playbooks here, look at all the things. Remember I told you guys when we run a playbook, Ansible does the gather facts if you want it to at the beginning, and then it just holds a bunch of information. There's all this stuff that it's like holding about what's going on in the system. You can know if it's in a loop control. Ansible knows all these almost like little checkpoints about itself. It can know where it got its inventory from. That could be really useful in your playbook. Maybe you stamp that out in your report. This is where the inventory came from. I might actually add that to my check here soon. That's actually a really good one. I'm going to play with this a little bit. I didn't even know, like, I don't know if that's newer, but I'd never really thought about that before. You can know how many forks it was using. Guys, there's so many things that Ansible knows about itself that are always going to be there, right? And I just think that this is one of these things that when you start to learn how to use some of the things that are always there, you can get some really powerful kind of like outcomes from the system. So, you know, what exact role am I in? Am I so a lot of times we inherit roles in playbooks instead of just doing things directly as tasks. So I can know what the role name is that's being executed. Yeah, so same as up here. So some things are deprecated over time. But that's really useful. You can see inventory host name of whatever's being iterated over. All the host vars. So host vars host, which you actually see me do in this playbook. Actually, I'm going to bring that up. So let's cat that out real quick. Let's cat this template and look at it again. Right here, I say host vars host. So if you're walking through this logically, if you inherited a Puppet environment but taking ownership of the servers, would I switch to Ansible? Q, I personally would, if that was good for the team. Like if I were newer, Inspector, I did see that bot thing. I thought that was funny. By the way, Inspector, if you're wondering, I was on episode 3. I think it was episode 318 of Law and Order SVU. I've never watched it before. I was in the Army when that all came out, so I've never watched any of that show. But I've kind of gotten sucked in because I like little crime drama type stuff. So I was on like episode 318, and guys, for you that haven't been in our Discord to see our little jokes, I got these two images. There was this guy, they pulled he had like a Mac, like a big Apple tower, and they pulled it out and they go, he's got 120, hold on. The line was Munch, who's the kind of older detective. He said he's got 120 gig hard drive and it's got 119 gigs of porn on it. This thing won't say porn, by the way. And I just fucking lost it, man. So I backed it up and I took a couple pictures of it and put it in layout and made a little meme out of it, which I thought was funny. And then, I don't know, the guys were talking about some other stuff. But it was funny that I did see that, Inspector. That was a funny little exchange. It looked at my name as though it was UTF-8, yeah. And it couldn't parse out what we were asking it in the thing. So I thought that was kind of funny. Must have been running Linux Windows, could take up more space, yeah. But yeah, Q, I would definitely if so let me tell you guys. So like when I've been different places, I started doing Linux about 20 years ago, and everybody always understood Bash, but sometimes people knew K-Shell, which is K-Shell's on some systems. You can still put K-Shell on if you want, and some guys were still using C-Shell from the old Unix days. So for me, I always used Bash because that was kind of a common language, but I would write in K-Shell if somebody needed, and then I would, I never wrote anything in C-Shell, like down in the actual C-Shell stuff, but I could do those two. Then I moved to Perl. I was very big on Perl. Hey, by the way, Kolkus, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for the subscription. I appreciate it. Then I got to Perl, and Perl was like, Perl still to me is like I can do a tremendous amount of things in Perl. I can do hash maps and all kinds of, I pull information from everywhere and do it. But you know how many people use Perl? If this is all the systems engineers in the world, it's probably like this much of us. So the reason I use Ansible so much is because when you take when you take Bash, which I think is a nice little baseline thing that everybody should be able to do if you're doing Linux. but then you want to automate a little more and have more power, but have something that's super understandable, I think Ansible is a really good. We call it like a common denominator. It's like a good lowest common denominator that everybody on the team should be able to use. Yeah, yeah. I mean, oh god, like if you guys could see how much gray is in my beard, like even since I started streaming. When I started streaming, I probably had like 3 or 4 little pieces of gray in my beard. This has nothing to do with streaming; it just has to do with getting older. But now I have like a significant amount of gray. If you guys could see, a significant amount of gray in my hair too. But yeah, Pearl is definitely, and almost always big neck beards, right? Like scruffy beards and all that stuff. But real quick, host vars here. I just want you guys to think about this for a second. For host, so now host becomes our counting variable as we go through our loop, right? This is a for loop, so it's a counting type loop. And I say for host in Ansible play host all, so I'm going through all the hosts that started. If host vars host, so the first one will be control plane here, dot uptime is defined, and if day is in there, then it'll do this. We talked about this a little bit, but I just wanted to show you guys that host vars host in that syntax is mentioned right here. It's a dictionary map with all the hosts in the inventory and variables assigned to them. So I can go grab, even though, because remember I said earlier, this is only getting stamped on my local box here. So let's say a management node, and I just hit 1,200 nodes, which again is what I did. It happened this morning in my big cluster for one of my colleges. But this box has to reference. Remember, I said Ansible knows everything. Ansible is like the Oracle; it knows everything about everything. But how do I reference it? I have an uptime variable on this server, so I reference it like this: host vars is a special dictionary map, and then I can call host, which is the host in the playbook, so control plane, then node 01, then all the way down the list, and I'm looping over it each time and putting that one in and seeing its uptime, and if it's defined. By the way, if it's not defined, then we don't do this, because if we try to do this and this variable doesn't exist, then this playbook breaks. Remember you guys saw that red earlier of like my Jinja template wouldn't work because I was trying to use some bullshit variable that didn't exist. So what I can do is, instead of doing this and having this break, I can do this check first and say, only if this is defined, then we do this next part. And then we do our end if, and our end for, because it's a templating language. And by the way, you might say, why don't you have that all indented? Well, I don't indent in a template language. However, if you want to go look inside of Jinja, you can get around that. Jinja has some ways to strip out white space before. I just never bothered to do it. But see how this is kind of annoying? So, actually, maybe I should learn how to do this. Maybe I should read this one of these days. Okay, anyways, read about Jinja white space control here. How might you read about that? And what about, hold on, what's the other thing I want to do? There's all kinds of stuff, guys, that you can do out there. You have to grow out the beard when it's more gray so you can send them the proper. Yeah, that's true. And I tell you guys, like one of the cool things about Linux is that you just kind of keep. Man, I worked with guys. I was telling you guys a few years back when I was on the NOAA project. I'm still on the NOAA project, but I don't do as much with it. I was 38 on that team. I was 38 and 39 when I was working on that team. And I was the youngest guy on that team by probably an average of about 15 years. I'd say if you averaged everybody else's age, I'd say the average guy was probably about 55 if you took me out. 55-ish. So I was like the youngest guy on that team. And what does that tell you? What am I trying to say there? Is there's a lot of longevity in like Unix, Linux style systems. Some of those guys had been doing Unix style systems since the late 70s, early 80s. So these commands have not fundamentally changed that much. So a lot of times when you're always like having to keep up and trying to keep track of stuff, you do have to always, I think you do always have to be like finger on the pulse in systems engineering and getting better. However, I will say that I think that it's very possible for you to, I don't want to say just kind of coast, but like use skills that you've been using for 30 or 40 years and keep doing this. Like I've always been hearing the whole time I've been in systems world, command line's going to be gone, and now I'm hearing AI is going to be doing all the command line stuff, and I'm like, oh man, I don't think like all the systems administrator and system engineer jobs are going away. I still think a person needs to push that button, still needs to make that call at some point. But anyways, all right, let's look at this real quick. There's another thing here. Hold on. Variables we might know about. 4. So we'll change this one to 5. How does the host bars host that we used in the for loop of the Jinja 2 template? How does the host bars host that we used find the right variable for each? So we use for each loop and the right variable for each loop. What does it mean? It is a dictionary. What does it mean that it's a dictionary map? Right? What does that mean to us? All right. So when we say Jinja, I'll change this to a 6. And then, yeah, read about the white space control. How might you clean up that template so that it looks better, but still outputs in a clean manner? How would white space control do that for you? So what I mean by that is this. Let me show you guys something about this. If I come in here to my template and I go like this, and because I know some of you are getting bugged by that. I guarantee some of you are getting bugged by that. And I do this, right? Because this is kind of the way that we do these things, right? Because when you have a hierarchy like that, it's easier to see what is tied to what, right? Like, and again, some people like tabs, some people like 2 spaces. People have fought and died over that kind of stuff in wars. But watch what happens to the playbook when I execute it if I do that. If I do that, but I don't wrangle in my white space. Watch this last output right here. So this is going to cat all of them, but really I just care about the last one. So now look at like this. This is all pushed over. Any of the hosts that have been up longer than a day would have been way over here as well. It just wouldn't look very good coming out if I had a bunch of servers, right? So, and I don't need all that trailing white space. So if you go here, not this one, sorry, this one, which is over there, they have how to do white space control. Single trailing new line is stripped if present. Other white space tabs new line is returned unchanged. So we can strip out some of this stuff. Able to else strip behavior by putting plus sign at the start of the block. See, I might need to play with some of this. Oh, you can't do that. Can't do that. Anyways, I need to get better with Jinja templates. But again, I've told you guys before, I get a way that works, and then that's what I do for like the rest of my life. So that's the way I do things. I'm like, this is how I do this now. I've got something that works. I'm like Bart with rock. Bart's like, they're gonna do paper rock scissors, and Lisa's like sitting there in her head going, poor Bart always picks rock, and then Bart's over there going, good old rock, nothing beats rock. I'm like, god damn it, Bart. All right. Anyway, so that's some extra questions for digging deeper. I think that'll be good for that. And then now we jump over to this other part of the lab. Yeah, right. Here's my Homer reference of the day. Homer, are you just holding on to the can? Your point being? Oh, that seems so funny. I grew up with Simpsons, guys. I mean, I think literally everybody watching probably grew up with The Simpsons because they've been on since like the early 80s. I think they might have even been on a thing called the Tracy Ullman Show in the 70s, maybe even. But yeah, they've been around a long time. All right. So our next one is going to be to debug the API and debugging variables. So we have a little bit more of debugging variables than we had maybe in some of our other ones. Your qualifications, Q, you can take anything you want, man. Like I tell you guys all the time, and I joke around about this. This is true. And I know you didn't do this, Q, but I'm saying for anybody else, if you go into our server, you jump into our Discord, and you guys take all the stuff that you can find out of there, and you like put it in a sack like a little bandit, and then run off, and you're like, man, as you run off, I don't care. Like I love that you guys have that, but yeah, that qualifications thing I think is funny. But I actually I think I did that in one of our, I think it was our SRE thing, was it? No, it was in our HPC one. Oh yeah, please do that stuff. I think that stuff's hilarious. Yeah. All right, let me get that out of there. Okay, make sure that I still got my stuff going on. I think I hit X earlier and I closed something out that I was looking at. By the way, guys, if you're ever hanging out and you want to talk about any of these other things and I'm not super busy, because you guys know sometimes I'm just on here messing around. Today I've got something because I really want to get the book kind of finished before the end of the month, and before I go on vacation, because I'm going vacation like May 3rd through May 10th or something, so I'm going to be down in Mexico. We're going down to Cabo? No, Cancun. We're going to Cancun. That's what it is, yeah. We're staying in like a resort that one of my buddies has like a timeshare type thing down there. So we're going down there. Okay. Again, the labs are, all free. You guys can do all the labs all you want. So let's do this one. I've always thought with this one that I needed to add a little bit to it. So it's possible that while we're doing this lab, I might just go and pull this up and update the lab some right now. But we'll see. We'll see if I get crazy and want to do that. This lab is right here, right? So we can add more to it if we wanted. By the way, this was a question I was asking the other day. Who are you cheating? If you're cheating, like in college, right? If you're cheating in college, if you're cheating in the systems world, if you're just cheating in general, who are you actually cheating, right? But this was a question that I was asking for, like, I think I was asking this on stream the other day. Like, who are you cheating if you're cheating? Like, if you go to college and then you just go buy Course Hero courses, and because you're like, oh, I don't need that English stuff, that's for losers, and oh, I don't need that math stuff, that's for losers. I don't need that statistics. Definitely never going to use statistics in engineering. Oh, that's for losers. Or you're like, oh, I want to be a data analytics guy, but I don't want to do statistics. And you're like, oh God, my heart, right? But anyway, so like I said to people, who are you cheating? Yourself, your college, your country, your family, your employer? I think the answer is you're fucking doing it to yourself. Oh, and then look, I showed this. This was the way that people send emails. Jeez. All right, anyways, we're not doing that right now. That's what I was saying. Like, you guys will find that I'll go off on a tangent if you let me. All right, so what are we doing in this lab? Cat root hosts, but we don't even use the inventory in this one. You need to review some statistics. Inspector, I might be doing some study group stuff down in the Discord if you ever hop down in there with me, but I think I have some packed stuff that I've been watching on. Again, like, this stuff's super simple, but I have it just because I'm going to be going into some of these other things. And even a lot of this stuff, I think I know it, but I need to get better at it. So the other day, guys, there's a Humble Bundle up. I think it's still up on Packed. So actually, let me see if that's up. Humble Bundle. Is that thing still up? I think it's a software one. And it is not any of these ones. It's not any of those ones. It's actually the data science. So yeah, data science one right here. So this one's up, and it's data science novice to ninja. So these, and they've been pretty good. I think I'm actually going through this one right now, I think. But I mostly got it because it's a lot of Python stuff, and I'm gonna be doing a lot of Python stuff. Yeah, Khan Academy is excellent as well. I think Khan Academy is one of the best places to spend your time if you're trying to, like, get some more skills in any of that stuff. Oh man, I need to, guys. Let me try to get this stupid shit working again. Hold on, this is bugging me. This is bugging me, guys. I gotta. All right, Scott's having a breakdown. Scott's having a mental breakdown. Why is this shit not... Why are these alerts not working? Normal stream. Send a test alert. Not coming up. Here's our copy. URL. For browser source. Twitch alert. Visible. Run a sound. Send test alert. Nope. Shoot. Alright. Hold on, guys. This is gonna bug me. Dynamic live alerts. Why is that called alert box? Nope. Alright. That's not... Audio. That's fine. So I predict the 2008 housing crash and don't think many people notice. Yeah. Is that Cy or Sal? I forget. Hold on. Some test for browser source. Copied. We're going to do this different. We're going to delete this thing. Twitch alert. Getting rid of it. Alright. Give me a second, guys. Browser source. Websites. Third-party widgets. Sure. Add one called Twitch alert. And there's the alert. And then I should run my sound test alert. That worked.
Jax is ready to do all the Linux.
Maybe I gotta switch. Give me a second here, guys. Maybe I gotta switch for that to come back up or something. Maybe there's something there, or maybe it's gotta be moved so that it's in front of things. Wait, we're gonna unlock it. Move it down here. Lock it again. It's definitely visible. And do that. Anything? Nope. Alright, fuck it. We'll do it later. I just had to try again to get that stupid thing working. Alright. Let's get back to this. Let's do some labs. So this next one says to look at our root. So cat root api.yaml. And you'll find actually that this one is only going against localhost. Localhost is, we can always have Ansible run against itself. It's Salmon, yeah. Ansible can always run against the box that it's on with the permission set that you have. So in this one, we're doing a simple thing. We're going to pull the Star Wars API. So the Star Wars API exists out there. We can actually click on this and pull it up. And it's going to tell us Swappy API dev people. And it'll tell us a bunch of information. It'll give us the first 10 entries of this list. There's 82 total in the list. And it says that there's another page if I want another page. And there's Luke Skywalker, and here's a bunch of information about him, right? But maybe you've never used an API before. Maybe you've never used Ansible to pull an API. So we're going to actually go and pull some of that stuff. So we're going to run the playbook, and we're just going to see what happens with this little information that comes out of here. So it's a lot of information. It's all this different information, and it's in JSON format. And that means it's hierarchical. We can look down through the key value pairs or the library. It's dictionary list stuff, right? And here's JSON results. And then for the first result, the 0 result, right here to right here is the first entry. So JSON, so it's the registered variable, which is swappy dot JSON dot results dot 0, or results 0 rather. It's a square bracket 0 will be the first result. So if I want to go look at that, I can VI this root API right here, and I can come down here and I can look at just the first output. So I can comment this out. This one takes one of those. It wants you to have you be a little more involved. This debugged everything that came out of this swappy API right here. This gives us everything. And then this one just gives us the first result right there. So see result 0, but that's the first result because JSON starts counting with 0, right? Whole bunch of languages program or start with 0. This is only going to give us that one now output, that one user. In the background, Ansible has all the information, guys. Ansible knows everything, but it's only giving us the one result that we asked for, right? And then from here, I can look at .iColor, right? So watch this. And go right here and add for that first result, give me .iColor, right? And then I would expect for Luke Skywalker, his eye color would be blue because, well, that's what I know of this. So this should give me just blue. So if I wanted to run something that did something against servers that only had that, or if I wanted to go pull from an API only for my servers in a certain patch group, like ServiceNow, Sharewell, Satellite, there's a bunch of tools out there that you can go and pull inventory information in your environment, and that inventory information can be updated in real time, and other processes can be updating it, and teams can be deferring to not being patching this week because maybe patching happens against all servers at the end of the month no matter what, but teams can opt into certain environments themselves through a process that you give them or whatever that is, and teams can be opting in and out. So maybe as I go to run my playbook, and I actually do this, when I go to run my playbook, I go get the freshest, hottest piping. I always talk about the tasty data. I always have the most up-to-date data about what's going on in my system. Now look, if somebody doesn't want to update their shit, I have to go off of what I know. So this is one of the reasons why APIs are so useful. The system, the company, the managers, they can all agree that the API will always be updated by their team. Once they agree with that, I, as an engineer, am completely exonerated. I tell you guys all the time, I go to sleep just fine at night. I do not sit around and worry like, oh man, I hope the fucking server step. No, guys. If you're doing it right as an engineer, you're laying that stuff off on the management. I let management make decisions all the time. I lay like 3 options out for them for the way things can happen, and I lay the way that things should happen out, and then I don't worry about it ever again. I'm like Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting. He's like, I did those things, and I realized that you were just a snot-nosed kid, that you could tell me everything about the Sistine Chapel, but you've never stood in it and looked at it. And he like tells him, and then I went to sleep, and I never thought about you again. If you guys ever not seen it, it's a pretty good movie on conflict. Because Matt Damon's character is just an asshole. He's like a little asshole kid, but he's the smartest person any of you have ever seen. And he uses that to his advantage all the time, especially to like piss people off and hurt their feelings and stuff. So it's kind of funny. But my point is, I don't have to worry about it. I'll let the system go do all the stuff. Yeah, thanks, Rossberg. I appreciate that. You know what's funny too, Ross, is you've been saying I'm going to make partner for a long time, and then I sit at like an average just lower than where I'm ever going to be partner. But I always think of it like, for me, I just want to find the one or two people that want to do this stuff as a professional, right? Like, and I've been training people. I've been teaching college for 15 years. You guys can do this stuff. I'm a big advocate of going to school. I'm a big advocate of getting certs, but I don't think you guys need it. Like, if you're just like, hey, Scott, I want to get into the industry. Can I do it without all that stuff? I say yes, absolutely. But is the work still going to be hard? Yeah, you got to spend some time with this stuff, right? You got to spend a little bit of time with this. I didn't learn all this stuff the first time I did it. I had to work on it, so that kind of stuff. So, yeah, but if Rossberger's still around, I know that we're official, right? Wait, where's our? I don't have it up here. I only have it in our Discord. By the way, our Discord hit 1,000 members the other day, so that kind of felt good. We're at 1,042 right now, so that's kind of cool. And we got a little bot in there that tells people all kinds of stuff, and you can do an ask anytime you want. Yeah, right, Ross. Yeah, it's good for me. I mean, I've been running my professional Linux users group for 10 years, and if I had to guess, like just conservatively guess, probably had about 200 people come through over the years and get into IT stuff. And I think I think about it like if you were going to make some X amount per year, or X amount per year for the rest of your life, but then you get into engineering and it shoots up like that, I think that's valuable. One of my brothers, I don't want to put his business all out there, but he's been with an insurance company for a long time. Actually, it's funny. A few of us, I have 4 brothers. So there's five guys in my family. One of my brothers has worked at an insurance company for a long time, and only in the last 2 years has he gotten into data analytics. He finally got like a data analytics role, and he's just been blown up there. But his salary was kind of going like this, and now his salary's been shooting up like that. And I told him, I'm like, and in a couple of years, they're not even going to be able to pay you. Like, because HR can only pay you guys at like about a 6% a year raise, tops. That's the top any HR is going to pay you, raises. And his skills, he's probably worth, I mean, if I had to guess, he's probably worth like close to $200K a year right now. And he's not making that yet. So he's gonna stay with the company. He's got like 2 years to a pension because he's been with them for so long. And then he's like, yeah, I'm just going to go somewhere else. And I'm like, yeah, and you're probably going to make about $200K a year, and it's going to be pretty nice. So, but he's also very good at what he does, too, which is an important factor. You don't just get into, data analytics, and then all of a sudden you make a lot of money. You got to work at it. And we have a guy who comes and talks with us about every 3 months or so, my buddy Jared. And he's a data analytics guy, and he tells you guys how to get into all that stuff as well, if you guys want to do it. He specifically does Google and Google Tag Manager and stuff. Yeah, Rossberg, I'm the same way. Like, I tell people, I tell all these guys, I'm like, come push me off my spot. I tell all the junior engineers, because I'm always like the principal everywhere I am. I tell all the junior engineers, I'm like, guys, look, like, push me off this top spot and I'll go do something else. But until then, I'm just going to be here teaching you guys how to do stuff. But I always joke around about it. Actually, there's one junior engineer that trained up with me who's far surpassed me. Well, I think there's many, but Michael Pessa. If you guys ever run into M. Pessa down on our server, that guy's sharp as they come. He took his RHCSA and his RHCE, and he got 100% on both of them. And then he went and got 7 other certs. If you guys know about all the Red Hat certs that are difficult, he's a Red Hat architect. He has like 7 of their certs right now or something, which is wild. He's very, very talented. And it's funny, he's going back to college just to work off that one little gap in his resume. We're always trying to. I always tell you guys, like, you want positive differentiators. You don't need college, you don't need certs, but it's good to differentiate you from the other people. So, yeah, if you guys, I've had Pessa come and talk to us a few times. He's a site reliability engineer for a shipping company that's like a startup. Okay, so we've done this. We've dug into these things, and then over here, here's what the book says. what is the name of the module that we use to hit the swappy URL? And I'll talk like that often, but URI module. So the URI module has very powerful things. And I say, what happened when we first ran it? What is the output of the debug module with the variable swappy? It dumped everything it knew to the screen. It was a bunch of pages, right? You guys saw that? When we first ran it, it was just, look at that. It's the first 10 entries. It's just so much, right, guys? That's just so much information right there. But again, I tell you guys all the time, like, if I have the data, I can parse it down later, right? Like, I mean, what's this? It's a little bit of memory in the back of my system. I don't care. I do this, and guys, I do this all the time. Like, I will pull information out of a server, and I only have to learn how to do it once. Once I do it once, I go put in a cron job and let the cron job run it every day. But I will go pull, like, this is, I used to do this at Best Western. We had the satellite server. I explained this the other day. We had the satellite server, and we had a tool called Sharewell, and those were our inventories. Satellite is all the servers that Red Hat knows that you have, so they're all your licensed servers that are getting patches, so that's a pretty good source of truth. But then Sharewell over here is our internal company source of truth. And what I used to do is I would just hit both of those and then compare the lists every day. Every morning I would just take this list, and I would compare them. And what we found, and that, by the way, it would output, and if it was clean, it wouldn't output anything like the one Jinja template you guys saw earlier. And if it did come out that there was something different, what we would find is some of our processes that were building things up in AWS, they were doing all the things right, and then they were registering down into satellite as the server needs to do so you could patch it, but they weren't maybe going over and doing one of their modules to load up in Sharewell. So what would happen is one morning I'd come in and I'd see 3 servers over here, brand new AWS servers, go check them out, they just came up. I'm like, So then I'd go talk to the architect who puts, and it was weird, the engineers became architects over there. You know, all companies do their naming of whatever different, but the architects were very hands-on. And I'd say, hey, you know, guys, all your stuff happened, but this other part didn't happen. Can you guys go fix it? And they go, oh, shoot, yeah, that did break in the logs. They'd go fix it, and I'd never have to worry about it again. So I heard you say certs are detailed, not necessarily. Can you go deeper into that? I would kind of disagree. Maybe it depends on location where you live. No, Mr. Extremely, what I'm saying is you don't need them to get the job. What I'm saying is they're a positive differentiator. What I mean is we're down to the last like 5 people that we want to pick, but we only have 1 role or 2 roles, and we're looking at all the people and we interviewed them and we like them all. Eventually, somebody's in that room is going to say, well, we got to get rid of the 3 of these people. How are we going to do it? And somebody's going to look down at the paper, right? Because you liked all of them. You filtered down as far as you can go. Maybe you're down to the last 2 people. I don't know. And the manager's like, I liked both of them, but this guy's got a cert. That's the cut that's made, and then that person gets the job. I always talk about positive differentiators. There, when everything else is even, they win. The positive differentiator. It's like if you ever go shooting, X's only matter if you tie on score. I don't know if you guys know that, but if you go do like a Palma match and you shoot like a 600, and I shoot a 598 and you shoot a 597, but my 598 is with 10 X's and your 597 is with like 30 X's, it doesn't matter. I still beat you because I beat you on points. Well, anyways, my point is, and by the way, guys, like if you want to see, I don't do this too often, but if you want to see, like I have certs, right? Like, but I don't lead with that. I try to lead with like, I can show you guys how to do this, and that's the same way. Like when I do interviews a lot for people. Like I've had over 300 technical interviews that I've given, and I write the stuff. So here, I'll pull one of these up for you guys. I'll pull one of these up for you guys. We were talking about this earlier. Yeah, like senior HPC technical questionnaire. So this was at work. We just hired this guy too, the guy who ended up getting this. God damn it, I hate this when it's like that. Hold on. All right. Sizing of windows is going to be the death of me. That's probably one of the reasons I like systems work so much, because I don't have to worry about this crap. But anyway, so in here, can I go to cert exams in person? Yeah, Inspector, I like actually taking cert exams in person. But check this out. This was how I determined in a technical interview who I'm gonna hire or who I'm gonna recommend to the manager to hire. I never decide. I never do personality fit or non-technical stuff. Doesn't matter to me. I'm literally there just to find out, can the person execute on the job duties. That's it. That's all I care about. And this was to select the next senior HPC engineer for my team, the company that I was at. Here's my methodology. Apply an approach to objectively determine the best technical candidate. I didn't want to be subjective about it. I didn't want to say, I like the way Inspector Diameter talks. I like the cut of his jib. I didn't want to do any of that stuff. I would never say that, except ironically. That's even an older generation than me, right? But, the files my software freewares and get me right up again. Yeah, Inspector, the Solutions Architect Pro, which is the last cert I sat for. I'm gonna make sure I'm not. No, I think I sat for the CCSP after that. I don't remember the order I took those in now. My brain's melting. I think I took the shit. I don't remember. Oh no, I took Solutions Architect Pro before I took the CCSP. That's true. Okay. Anyways, my point is, I took the Solutions Architect Pro in person and the CCSP in person because I just I hate when these things crash, and I hate when I got to show them around my room and I got to go under my desk and stuff. I think that's terrible. I think that's just a terrible system. I prefer going in. So this one said both candidates, but it was all candidates. I ended up in this interview. I ended up interviewing 12 people for this position eventually. But this is how I do it. Specific responsibilities if I have them, minimum qualifications if I have them, and then this is what I do is I build a responsibilities and competencies questions matrix from that, and everybody gets the same. In this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions. The same 7 questions. And these are the exact questions that I asked of these people. And if you look at them, you say, well, those look pretty simple, but they're open-ended. I wanted, because I find that the way that somebody talks about something will help you to understand. So what'll happen? You'll get a resume, and it'll be like, my team deployed 1,500 servers, this and this and this. But then when you talk to the person, you find out that they were just the person doing the project management, or they were just the person fixing the nodes when they went down and working with the vendor to get the right nodes in place and stuff. And it's there's nothing wrong with that. That's good work. That's honest work. I'm not trying to say oh, that's terrible work and you're an idiot. No, what I'm saying is what my company wanted, or what this team wanted that I was asking these questions for, was a Linux engineer. They really wanted a high performance compute engineer, but we never found one. We ended up settling for a really good Linux engineer, and I think this guy's solid. I think this was one of the best Linux engineers I've ever interviewed, honestly. Can we Google? I can't remember RAID levels off. Yeah. So, but MoonPie, here's the thing. I don't care, right here on the RAID stuff, I don't care if somebody can say, RAID level 0 is this, and RAID level 1 is this, and RAID level 5 is this, and we don't care about 3 and 4, and RAID level 6 is, I don't care. What I would care about on that would be, they'd be like, you know what, I haven't used all the RAID levels, but I'll tell you, when I did stateful systems, especially my infrastructure systems, I always had RAID 1 because I really wanted to make sure that I had my data mirrored and I could get my systems back up quickly. But on all of my compute nodes, which are basically ephemeral and I don't care, those were all just striping. I did RAID level 0 because I wanted it to be as fast as possible. That's the level that I care about. Because when somebody does that kind of stuff and understands it, even if they have to go reference some of the stuff, I think they know it well. Or somebody's like, yeah, out in our GPFS or our Lustre system, it's RAID 6, 8+2. I don't know the exact speed that we get through it, but we do that so that we can have 2 failures without any rebuild time and without the loss of data, so we have high data durability, and that's what we end up using. That's perfectly acceptable to me. In fact, that's about all I really would care about on that. But you'll find that somebody that's not super confident with that will worry a little bit or that kind of stuff. And I find that somebody who has built a lot of servers and done a lot of this stuff would just kind of blow over the top of that and be like, oh yeah, well, I know that they're different, and I know that I never really cared about the RAID level on. If somebody told me I didn't really care about the RAID level on my compute systems because I kept everything off and that box could get blown away and come back up, I would be like, if you ever remember the Dave Chappelle where he was asking the guys on the Jeopardy program, and he asked the guy, he's like, is pimping easy? And the guy goes, hell yeah, pimpin's easy. But the white guy had said pimpin' ain't easy because whoever had said it, whatever that song was. Well, Dave Chappelle looks at the card and looks at the guy and he goes, that's correct. Pimping is easy for you if it is. My point is, it's like, this was about kind of like distilling out how much somebody had done some of these things, if that kind of makes sense. Anyways, yeah. Man, I love Dave Chappelle. I love his show. I loved his 2 seasons of that came out pretty much right as I was getting out of the Army. Back in 03, 04, I think is when those were coming out. So yeah, I love the Chappelle show. To this day, me and my friends still quote stuff from that show to each other. So anyway, so then we do that, and then here's an example of how, I think I actually erased it, but here's an example of how it might have been filled out: 5, 5, 3, 3, 3, and then you would get some score out of 35, and then I could then take those to the manager and say, you know, I liked all of them, but these 2 had the highest score when we really got down into it. And that's kind of what the way I do it. I'm not there again to ask if I like the person, like if they're going to fit technically, you know. And by the way, I think one of my powers, let's say, as an engineer in general, has been I really don't care who I work with. I don't. I guess the only people that would probably piss me off to work with were people that maybe, no matter how many times you show them or do the same thing, they just choose not to learn it. That would probably piss me off. But other than that, like, I've had like really headstrong people who yell at everybody in meetings and stuff. They don't bug me. And typically because they just still work with me well because I get stuff done and they don't ever have to yell at me, you know. And I think that I don't ever, I'm glad that I never get asked to do that kind of stuff. Because I tend to, I think, in interviews, like people as well. But that's not what I'm there for. I'm there to ask the technical stuff, right? So, all right, anyways. So we did this. We broke this out. How much less information did you get with the swappy.json.results0 command? Well, you only saw the first entry of the results. That's good. I said, can you modify this to just show the names of all the people? And so then I said, yeah, okay, so we go character, item name, with item. So this would debug the swappy results. And it would give us just the character and the item.name. So yeah, we could do this. This is one of these things where you go and you actually put it in there. What if we just comment out these debugs? We don't even see them. We just come down here, Control Shift V. We got to line these up, right? Make sure it's all lined up. And now it says character name, and it's going to debug the item name from each of the results, and it's going to give me. So this is kind of a weird thing, but I want you guys to think about this like kind of almost expansively. If down here, this is with items, but that's the old way to do it. I actually need to update this. This is loop nowadays. You use loop, so I'm going to fix this right here in the lab book too. You actually use loop now. We used to use with items, and I thought it was super convenient because it's easy to realize that now you're counting over items in your loop. But this is how you loop in Ansible right here, with the loop like this. So now what happens here, I want you guys to think about this expansively. If I'm looping over swappy.json.results, so it's going to start at 0, and then 1, and then 2, and then 3, all the way up through 9, which are those first 10 entries. Well, what happens then is in the counting loop here, so in the debug, this swappy.json.results is item, right? This is kind of like as you count through things. So now this right here is swappy.json.results square bracket 0 dot item. Then it's going to loop through again, and it's swappy.json.results square bracket 1 square bracket close dot name each time, right? How do you deal with starting a Linux job with people who don't trust you, those who don't let you advance, if that ever happens at least? Mr. Extremely, I would just say, for me, I've always just kind of, I've tried to be, and I feel like in systems world, not systems world, but I think in general, like especially like in Twitch culture, people always talk about like Chad or tryhards or whatever. But I would say in your job, that should never be a thing. You should always be trying as hard as you can. So what I'm saying here is, I have always tried to be, not in a Bill and Ted sense, but like be excellent. You know, be excellent to each other. No, I try to do all my things well, so that if anybody, and this is the thing that I always say on here, and again, it sounds Chad, but it's true. If my name is on something, it works. That's all there is to it. And if somebody's like, and what I mean by that is like, I don't put things out and I don't let my stuff get past test, dev, test, getting up towards prod, unless it works, ever. And that's like my own standard. And I even remember, like, when I was at Lockheed Martin, I had this manager that just tanked my career. Terrible. His name's Rob something. He was an asshole. And he tanked my career. But even then, when I didn't care, I tried to, like, I remember I was like, I'm just going to do shitty work until I leave here. And then I remember, like, I didn't. I did really good work. And a few of my buddies still work there years later. And one of them messaged me and he's like, I still use something that you wrote. And I'm like, I'm not surprised. Like, my stuff works. And again, that's you can think about that however you want. But all right, let's do this. Let's see if this works. All right, one test worth 1,000 expert opinions. Let's see if my thing works. So this looped over for each of these. It gives us the message of the character, and it gives us some other information. But it looped each time and told us the name of the character. Gave us, here's all the other, like, this is kind of like the debug information about the variable, but this is the message that we wanted, which is the individual character. R2D2, there's his name. And you could suppress these if you don't want to see all this other stuff. But yeah, look, there's Luke Skywalker, there's this other one. Now, we have 82 entries, but we're only seeing 10 of them. So we should be able to, and I can never remember how to do this, but you should be able to, as you do this call, you should be able to say the number of results you want too. So go here, Swappy, API people dev, and it gives us, and it says there's a count of 82, and you should be able to, I think in here, maybe do, what is that? It's like a question mark, and then it's, somebody help me out here. Some of you guys do more of this web stuff than I do, but I think it's results equal 100 or something. Is that right? Does that one give me? No, that one didn't do it. Somebody help me out here. I know some of you guys know how to do this stuff. Isn't it like results equal 100 or something? And you get all the results? Or, more entries from API call. Possible result. Yeah. Oh, it might be limit. Is that it? Might be it. Ranger. Might be limit. Somebody help me out here. One of you guys knows this. Some of you guys know this better than me. Probably all of you guys know this better than me. But, alright. Fuck. Get the cookie shit out of my face. Start, end. I might be able to do a start and an end. And you put your API key, yeah. Let's see. It depends. Oh, that's another framework, right. Let's see if it'll let me do start. 1. And then what do you do, an ampersand? End equals 82 or something. Is that right? I didn't do it either. Alright, I don't know how to do it. But anyways, is it page size? Maybe. Might be it. Let's see. I don't know how to do it, guys. I don't remember. I haven't done this in a long time. That might be it. Nope. Didn't do it. Count? I don't think it would count, would it? Maybe count? No, we gotta do it here. I think if Robodom was around, he would know this. He does this stuff a lot more than. Nah, it's not that either. Ah, shit, guys. I don't know how to do it. Sometimes it's something like limit, or there's different things. I'm just looking in them in general, but I'm seeing if there's a and API key. So yeah, sometimes there's a start and an end. There's what is that? What is that? Somebody should have this. I use it in, oh, you know what? Hold on. I might have it in Discord. So let's see if I have it over here in satellite. Let's see. When I used to do satellite stuff, and in some of my playbooks, yeah, there's Pico. Pico's really good, guys. If you ever get a chance to work on see any of the stuff he's written. I don't have any of my. I think it would all be in my Ansible code, but complaints. Shit, there's gonna be so much API stuff. Whatever. I don't know, guys. I don't remember how to do it. I was sure one of you guys would know. I can never remember that kind of stuff. I don't do enough web stuff to know how to do that. I thought it was limit or something. I was looking for anybody that has an example. That's too much. All right. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, I spill my water everywhere. All right. They might have a limit on it too, though. No, it's not that. I thought it was limit. Oh, they got. Wait. Oh, that's page size and. No. All right, screw it. Doesn't matter. Digging deeper. Let's say other things that I think that you should go spend some time with. So URI module Ansible. And there are a lot of other things that you can do with this. Read the Ansible documentation on the URI module here. What other useful Wife's messaging me. Hold on. Wife's messaging me. Let's see what she says. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. No, it's fine, Rob. I just don't remember what it is. And I mean, they may even have it in here, but I don't remember what it is. So look at all these other things I could have done, guys. I could have posted, and I could have pulled this information back as well. Okay, what other useful things might you do with the URI module? You can do, you can pass in and do HTTPS. You can pull down and use cookies if you have login cookies. There's all kinds of things you can do with this. There's some token stuff. What are the uses of tokens that you see? And then this one, I'm going to do something. I'm going to do something I haven't done in any of these labs, but I'm going to call out a different lab that I built. And this is over in HashiCorp. And this one is using Ansible and then complete the challenge lab here. This lab will make you call Ansible, or read, make you use URI modules with Ansible and HashiCorp Vault. Right? So I'm actually calling a lab that's not in our, the book, the scope of the book is only all of our Ansible labs and our Linux labs. Those are the only two things I have in there. But I also have this other thing that some of you, by the way, oh, did I run out? I ran out of music some time ago, guys. I apologize. I didn't even realize I didn't have music going. Let's do Stream and Chill. Yeah, if you guys are ever on stream and I'm talking and you don't hear music, let me know. I don't know how long ago I ran out of music. Making a mess. All right. So that's digging deeper on that one. So that's good. And then this next one gets into vaulting secrets with Ansible. That's going to be our next lab here. Yeah, I didn't even notice. I like this song. This is called Bossa Nova. What is it? Bossa Nova Moonlit. I think it's Moonlit Sonata. It's like a variation of Moonlit something. Alright. API debugging variables. Alright, so we've added some to that. I could go to the preview and I could regenerate these previews. But I have a pretty good... Where'd it go? I have the most recent download here. Go to downloads. This is the most recent one. And then we've been in our Ansible labs. And here's each of these pieces. Right, here's the digging deeper parts that we've been adding. Ad hoc. That all looks good. And then it also has all this stuff at the bottom. That's good. And we've made it all the way up to here. So that's good. These ones aren't updated yet because I haven't pushed. I got to push a new generation of the preview and then download it. But I think what we have so far looks pretty good. Here's our digging deeper. And again, the whole goal of the book is to give you something else. Like if you're doing the labs and you're like, I like these labs, but I want to know more about it or spend more time with it. All of these things here are designed to just give you more time. Then we go all the way up to our NFS deploy. But I need to add 2 more labs because I have more labs now. After NFS deploy, we have, let's see. I know I added at least 2 more labs to the Ansible labs. So there's our NFS deploy. So then it's our generate the CSV report and firewall configuration. Software engineering, do you think it'd be good for me to continue working on building up my work experience before trying to go back and get a degree? Robodom, I think if you're going to work on a degree, there's no better time than now to start it. I'm a big fan. I've told you guys, like, I teach at DeVry, but I'm a big fan of WGU. I'm also a fan of DeVry, by the way, but I'm also a fan of WGU because that's what Robodom. You'll have a lot of support. Our Discord has 3 or 4 graduates and probably like 4 or 5 people right now that are in programs there. So you can talk to all those different people that are doing it. M-Pesa's starting over there. And I was telling you guys, he's a senior software SRE guy and DevOps guy. So he does this stuff all the time, but he's still going back to kind of round out his resume, and that'll probably help him later on in his career, even though right now he's killing it. He's doing really well. Just got married too. So, yeah. Robodom, I'm telling you, I am a fan in general of getting as many positive differentiators as you can. Like, again, like I'm not a big fan of these places that call themselves hacking sites that are just doing labs, but of those sites, I'm still a fan of going. If you were going to do nothing else, I would say go do that. If you said, hey, I'm not going to do, and I know that you're not saying this, Robodom, I'm just telling anybody here. If you're like, hey, I refuse to do this thing, I say, well, then go do something that's fun to you. If it's got to be one of these sites that call themselves hacking sites, then go do that. But it's like, I think that there's valuable things that are out there to do. The point is just don't stay still whatever you're doing. Keep working on stuff. Keep bouncing ideas off of some of these other guys. Find a project to work on. Projects are huge. Because anybody can just go through labs, but then you don't learn anything. You got to find something that's interesting to you, right? So, all right. What's Ranger doing? By the way, the wife texts me. She's on her way home, so she's gonna grab me some food, and then we're gonna hang out. We're gonna watch. Let's see. I made her watch Predator last night, so I think she gets to pick the movie tonight. Yeah, Predator was fun. I've seen that movie probably 30 or 40 times though in my life. So, and some of you guys have been around. I use that all the time. Yeah. She wants me to watch a movie called like Charlene and Darlene or some shit. It's some like old movie. She's like, it's so cute, and I'm like, oh my god, oh god. I'll watch something cute, I guess. Look, these are the sacrifices we make, right? We do the stuff that the wives like, or significant others like, and we do what makes them happy. That's lots of things are better when you make them happy. So, all right, guys. If anybody here has gotten the book, I know some of you guys have gotten the book before. Whenever it updates, when I do push this update out, push out this update, it will be. It'll have all these things in it, and then I'm going to try to get it done by the end of this month. So in the next 10 days, I'll get these last ones done. Get the few that I've added to these up, because the ones that I've added, I also want to include in here. And then we're going to call the book done. And then I'll still be building labs and stuff, but they might just not be in the book, or I don't know, maybe I'll publish another one later. But we're going to call the book 100% at some point, so it's done, but then it's there for you guys, right? And yeah, Johnny, man, I'm trying to do this stuff because I show you guys that I'm not just some sorcerer up here doing this stuff. Although like management thinks that I cast spells and shit, but for you guys, it's like you can do this stuff. Any one of you guys could build or do these same things as me. You just got to get in there and start doing it. And then after a while, you'll be like, man, they're actually paying me pretty well to do this stuff. And then that'll keep the fire going for you, And I think that's valuable. So I think it's valuable, because we engineer, we do the hard things so that we can go relax when we're off of work. We can go do the things that are good, and we can have a big room downstairs for Ranger like that. So, Are you using Splunk, or do I have an alternative setup? No, I don't use Splunk. My home lab looks like this. This is my home lab here. Let me pull it up for you guys. Many of you guys have seen this before, but this is my home lab setup for monitoring. This is my monitoring in my home lab right here. Monitoring. This is my monitoring setup right here for people that have not seen it. This is the Prolog Lab monitoring architecture right here. And these are all the pieces. We used to have things like CloudWatch from AWS feeding in and stuff. There's labs on this, Mr. Extremely, that show you how to build all these pieces. Inspector, depends what you're doing. 10 gig Ethernet in a home lab is pretty good if you've got high-speed data transfer, and if you're doing like iSCSI and stuff, it's pretty, right? More gigs are better. But I can do almost all the things I need over 1 gig Ethernet, even to a cluster of like 1,200 nodes. When I work on clusters, like when I was with NOAA, and that was a 2,600 node cluster, I did have 10 gig management, and then my back end was, what was that? That was high-speed InfiniBand. I want to say it was 4x EDR, which is 100 gig. So it's 100. It's 4 25 gig links aggregated in like a lag to each server, and you get 100 gig. Run a NAS on 10 gig. Yeah. And Inspector, I bet that thing just chills and hums while you're doing whatever else you're doing, because that bottleneck is not coming in a 10 gig Ethernet. I think some of you guys, it's actually interesting. I don't know if any of you guys have ever worked on so InfiniBand architecture. See if I can find a quick little rundown of InfiniBand. Probably going to be from Mellanox. But the InfiniBand architecture, the interesting thing about it, let me pull this up here for you guys real quick, is it bypasses the kernel. So the HBA and the HCA card in there actually can directly access without going through the kernel. So they talk about it here. Now this is just a high level white paper on it. This doesn't dig down. Oh, maybe this does. Okay, yeah. All right, I'm gonna link this to you guys because this is good if you're ever in this space. They talk about how the technology works and how fast this can be without slowing down anything in the TCP/IP stack of the kernel. It bypasses all that. So InfiniBand is tremendously fast, and it's NVIDIA bought Mellanox a while back. So, okay, where are we at here? We did that, did all that. Did I add? Hold on, did I add the last pieces I wanted to there? Hold on. Alright, so there's a challenge lab on this one. So this lab now has 2 labs involved. Alright, that's good. Oh, back to this. So hold on, monitoring. So there's 3 labs that deal with monitoring. They all end in Grafana. The first one builds Telegraph on some server, and that feeds data over to InfluxDB2, and then Grafana queries that via Flux queries. Then there's Loki. Loki in my home lab is aggregating all the logs from all of my servers and keeping track of what's going on. That's happening from a tool called Promtail Agent, and that's pushing the logs over. And then Grafana is pulling that information and getting that out. And then Node Exporter to Prometheus to Grafana. So what that looks like in my home lab is this right here. Where'd Ranger Cam go? All right, that's 219, so I need 218. All right, nope. Hold on. 218. I'm gonna have to log in this. No, and these are my lab environment things. So what's this? This is one. This is one. Do I have virtualization usage up? Did I ever fix this one? I need to fix that one. I have a lot of things I need to fix, but here's my logs, and these are all the users trying to log into my systems. This is my security and connectivity. This is security and connectivity in my lab. I need to clean this one up. I gotta clean all my shit up. And then this is the dungeon stuff. But the dungeons are down right now. I haven't worked on them lately. And then here's our lab servers. Right. So then if we were just flipping through these, it would be all of my servers, how many users are on them, how much CPU and memory usage, just like everything going on in my lab. We have labs that show you how to build all this in Killer Coda. So you can actually build this and play with this, and you can get all this logging stuff out. You can see your security connectivity, how many people are trying to log in, all the bot networks that are trying to get into my system at any given time. There's all this kind of stuff out there. So, yep, and there's Robodom giving you guys all the labs. By the way, I haven't sold these lately to you guys. They're free. But the labs from, these are my labs, or my Prolog labs. But Fisherman has some really good labs out there. He's got some sysadmin labs that are just good kind of challenge labs for you guys to do. Oh, your Ranger dog. He's got some good challenge labs for you guys to do. And then he's got one that has a large language model. So if you guys have never built an LLM out and you want to build a large... whatever. You guys can go there. So it's in the chat right there if you guys don't want it. There you go. Do Fisherman's Lab so we can force him to make more of them. He's also the maintainer, by the way, guys. He's the maintainer of Chatbot in our Discord. He's got a little bot, and he's used that. He shows that to people. He's got it. I think he's got it out on GitHub. But if he doesn't, he's came and done talks with us before to show you guys how he built it and how the API calls work and how all that stuff works. So he's got that all set up, and he's actually talked about that on stream before because he does stream. I don't know, Robodom, do you mind doing a shout out to him? But if you guys follow him, I can convince him. I'm trying to convince him to get on more and stream. But yeah, he's got really good labs. He's got really good kind of technical stuff that you guys can go see and touch. Maybe a tool that you haven't seen before. And again, like maybe you're like, hey, I want to know more about this AI stuff and how it works. His lab shows you how to go build some of that stuff. Now, is it very high level? Yes, but he also shows you how to hit an API. And then after you hit the API in his lab, you go back into our Discord, you go to our Ansible code page, and you go right here, just scroll up a little bit. And this is from his lab. This was updated with more robust output. This is the URI module to call your API and get information out of, like, what is the origin of Ansible, or whatever question you want to ask, and your API will respond to you. So now you want to build, you've been thinking about maybe building an application and using an API endpoint. You can have your own API endpoint to test against on your local machine with Olama responding to you as though it was a machine learning. It's an actual machine learning model. It's an AI, it's one of these large language models that can answer questions and do things. And then what you'll do after you have the base one and you've built up your code or whatever for hitting it, then you would come back later and you would go build a more advanced one, which is what he uses with our bot. Our bot, if anybody joins our Discord, there's a little bot that welcomes you. He wrote that. And it goes back and it does all the stuff. You do an exclamation mark ask and ask it any question. It goes and hits his bot and comes back and gives you information about whatever you're asking about. And I think that's pretty cool. That's a thing that he does as like a little pet project on the side, but it's super powerful. It's a super, it's very like, I hate to be like, oh, it's super modern or whatever, but it's super like what everybody's talking about and working. What's Ranger doing? Ranger was like alerting there for a second. Yeah, give it a try. I'm trying to sell you guys on a different lab. Also, the price is free $99. Free.99. There you go. Although if you ask Fisherman, he'll charge you. So don't ask him, because he charges people when they ask him stuff. No, I'm just kidding. But he's by the way, I try to get him to come on. He's talked to our group a few times. He's a senior solutions architect for a pretty big cloud vendor that you guys all know of. So, and I've got 5 of the AWS certs. He's got 6 of them. So he's an AWS guy through and through. So, all right, I hear the wife downstairs, guys. I got to drop off of here, but I appreciate everybody coming. Let's go raid somebody. Let's go find somebody that's doing something fun out there in the world, and we'll go direct a raid over to them. Let's see who's on. Who's on right now? I don't think Ross is on. Did Ross ever come? No, Ross didn't come on. I would have raided Ross. Let's go similar size. Let's find somebody that's doing... Oh, we're going to hit Sid. We haven't hit Sid in a while, guys. I like Sid. He's doing a happy 420 thing, which is not my thing, but it is for some people. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys all coming by. I do appreciate your questions, even if it sounds like I don't. It gives me something to talk about and work on. So, I appreciate you guys all being around and sticking with me. So, let's go raid over there. Remember, pillage and then burn. And I will talk to you guys. I'll be on tomorrow. All I do on Sundays is labs. So, it's Lab Sundays. So, all right, take care, everybody.